You damn right. Hope everybody's having a good Wednesday. Oh, it is almost here. Draft fans, NFL fans. Tomorrow night is the NFL Draft Round 1. Made it a nice primetime event. One round, one night. Beats what we used to do on the weekends. I won't bore you with that story, kids. We'll talk some draft today. We will get into the latest rumors, the stories. We'll get you a national perspective at 12:30. We'll talk to a Cowboy fan and what does he want to have happen at 26. At 1:05, we'll also check in on the Sark event in Houston today as Chip Brown, horns247.com, our normal visit at 2:05. He'll be driving back from the Houston event to let us know what Sark had to say today, talking to the Houston Longhorn group as we close in on the season. Longhorn fans, you're only 129 days away from your first game. Let's go. Chad and Zay, I'm Chad Hastings, and he is Isaiah Collier. What's up, Zay?
What up, though? Happy Wednesday, everybody. How you doing, Chad?
Man, I'm good. I just need to know if you still have enough in the tank after 2 nights ago and all the drama with Butler and LeBron, after last night with close games, and tonight they're putting you in the quad box. They're going 4 games. Do you still have something in the tank, NBA fan?
A little something. I'm going to need a 5-hour energy, some coffee, some Mike Hard Blue Chew. I'm going to need it all.
Woo! Man.
Just to stay up.
I'll tell you what. I could tell you that I didn't work 8 ounces of coffee in where I don't normally work it in last night, but I'd be lying because I did. I was just trying to stay up, man. But it was awesome. We're going to have 2 double headers tonight in the NBA, and that is where we will get started today. Coming up at 12:30, I mentioned a national perspective. Joe DeLeon, who's joined us before, NFL draft analyst from the Believe Network, former long snapper at Rhode Island, by the way. He's been through the draft process in a way. But he knows the insides and outsides, and he's joined us before. I want to get his thoughts on Bijan, and then Zay and I were talking before the show. What is that national perspective today on the number 2 pick? And C.J. Stroud, and the Texans, and quarterbacks, and all that. Plus, we have a little bit of new C.J. Stroud info. C.J. Stroud sound that is out today. And Zay, I don't know that he's helping his case very much.
I don't think he is either.
No.
Thanks, CB, for sending us that.
Yes, thank you. Chris Bennett, the executive producer for every sports talk radio show on earth, sent us the info. Shout out to him, always working hard. Check out CB on Twitter if you haven't. But we'll get to a lot of the football stuff. We'll start with the NBA here. First off, sad news on Kawhi Leonard. Torn meniscus, they announced today, Zay. So that's why he wasn't able to go after Game 2. They'll take a little time and figure out what to do. It's good news, better news that it's meniscus and not something worse. But this is the same knee. He had the ACL on in 21. The man just doesn't seem to be able to get right.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Ty Lue, you got a feel for him. When he came over from Cleveland, you thought that he'd get a really, really good team. Like, I picked them to win the finals one year, and I thought they had one of the best rosters in the NBA, but they just couldn't stay healthy. Their 2 main superstar guys, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, you saw it this series. Those guys have not been able to stay on the court at the same time when the playoffs come around. You could talk about load management. You could talk about, having just a deep team. Norman Powell, he's a hell of a player, had 40 in games. Like, your role player shouldn't be getting 40. That's how good their roster is. Russell Westbrook, say what you want about him. You'd think it was about to work out with the Los Angeles Clippers and Russell Westbrook getting traded mid-season or toward the end of the season, trade deadline. And Paul George, he was the one that vouched for him. With their time in Oklahoma City, that 1 year Paul George was there, he was like, no, Russell needs to be in the right environment, and if you put him in the right situations, he could still be good for you. With the Lakers, he wasn't. The ball has to be in LeBron's hands. Reeves started coming along. Anthony Davis needs his touches, etc. While Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, those guys could play off the ball at times, and if they were giving Russell Westbrook the freedom that he needs that Darvin Ham was not, then you could see why he was succeeding at the Clippers. He had his games. He had a bad game last night, but still, it seemed like it was going to work. And yeah, these last 4 years, ever since the bubble and they got bounced by the Nuggets, They just have not been able to stay healthy, and it's been very unfortunate because they have a really good roster.
Yeah, Ty Lue throws out that fact last night that when Kawhi and Paul George play in an entire series, they haven't lost a series.
Yeah.
They don't lose the series. They just can't get them out there at the same time. They did lose last night. Phoenix beats them, and they win the series. Denver finished their series off, and the Hawks stayed alive. One of our listeners one of our guys, Nate, just texted us, Trae's shot was so cool. Trae Young hit some big shots at the end of the game. There was kind of a virtuoso performance in each game with his 38, Murray's 35 for Denver, and Booker with 47 for Phoenix. Just so much good basketball last night. Everything stayed close in all three games. It was fun watching.
Yeah, one thing about this job, Chad, you got to stay professional, but, we all have feelings. We're human.
Mm-hmm.
And as a Texas fan, it's very difficult for me to hype up Trae Young.
This I know you've had trouble with.
It's very hard. And you know how it's difficult for me to do Westlake, guys. I've gotten past that.
Yes.
I'm getting past it.
I feel like you're battling through your Westlake issues pretty well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with Trae Young, it's tough. The dude's literally from Norman.
Like born and raised?
Born and freaking raised.
Like a high school in Norman?
Yes, went to Norman North or whatever, averaged 42 a game his senior year before he was a McDonald's All-American, and he became one of the best college basketball players I've ever seen. He was dropping like 20 and 10 at his size in college basketball, where the spacing is just very tough to do that.
Right.
As a freshman, it was impressive. So it's tough for me to big him up. So I gotta, say something foul about him. Just as a Texas fan, only a brother like that from Norman can have a messed up hairdo the way he do.
Okay.
So let me throw that out.
Gotta get that out.
See
there.
that, like that head toe up.
He does seem to have the hair of a 58-year-old man that has never owned a brush or comb.
Oh, he looks like a lollipop got dropped on the floor on some carpet and just rolled around and you pick it up. That's how he looks. His hair is toe up. So let me get that out the way, because now we got to get to being professional and talk about the amazing performance that he put on without DeJounte Murray. Wow.
Yeah.
Quinn Snyder, I could have came in, and if the Celtics would have won, I probably would be bashing Quinn Snyder, because that last defensive possession where the Hawks were up by 116 to 115.
Jeez.
Quinn Snyder, get Trae Young out the game. Why is he in? He's not a defensive stopper. You have a timeout. This is when you start playing chess. This is, coaching one-on-one. I know I have other defenders on the bench that I could put in the game. Put Sadiq Bey in the game. Put Johnson in the game. Just all those guys are better defenders at this point of the game than Trae Young. He didn't do that. They went right at him. Derek Wright went right at him, blocking foul. They tried to challenge it. It didn't work. Derek Wright goes to the free throw line, knocks down 2 free throws, bang, bang. I'm over here like Quinn Snyder. That's so stupid.
Yeah. Like,
don't put Trae Young in that situation. I'm Trae Young. Yes, I'm a competitor, but I'm a little salty because I would know they're probably going to go at me here. Quinn Snyder was probably thinking, ain't no way they're going to give it to Derek White to go for game. Why, they got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown's got 38. Why would they go to Derek White? Good job for Joe Mazzulla thinking, hell yeah, we're going to attack Trae Young no matter what and see what happens and live with the results. So they go up 1, and then now it's Atlanta Hawks' turn. And Trae Young, just think about what he's gone through. We talked about it. I don't know if we talked about it on air or off air, Chad. The Athletic, they dropped a report where not all of the NBA, but a lot of NBA players took a vote of, what's the toughest places to play, who's the coach that you would love to play for most, who's the hardest guy to play against, best defender, etc. They also did who's the most overrated player. Trae Young was that guy by a long shot. You don't think that?
So his peers called him overrated.
Overrated.
Yeah.
You don't think that's in his mind? Like, Trae Young, I just hated on him. The dude's a dog. The dude's tough. Tough as hell.
Yeah.
He's thinking about those things. Remember, when he went to the Garden a couple of years ago, Knicks fans are still saying F Trae Young in chants. They're going crazy. They're beating the Cavs right now, and I'm watching videos. They're still saying F Trae Young. They're still talking about this guy. That was 2 years ago.
Did you hear them ask him about it last night? They said, hey, Trae, we noticed late in the game they were doing the F Trae Young thing. And he said, does that show you respect? And did it remind you of the Knicks series? And he goes, well, no, it didn't remind me of the Knicks series. He goes, the Knicks fans were doing it with 10 minutes to go in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Like, they started early on. And you're saying they're still doing it?
They're still doing it. They're beating the Cavs right now, and they're doing it in joy.
That's
Like,
crazy.
it's nuts. So he has a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And that last play, like he's already has 14 points, or excuse me, 13 points in the fourth quarter before the shot. So you know he's going to shoot it. And the shot that he hit, like Jaylen Brown, people are blaming him for not pressing up. What can you do?
I mean, Brown got out there.
What can you do? Nobody shoots that. That's not a good shot. That's not a normal shot. They're down by what? They're down by 1. You would think he's going for a 2.
Right,
He's going to drive to the lane.
Yeah, you need a bucket. You don't need that bucket.
Yeah, he takes 2 dribbles, and before he takes a third, he hits Jaylen Brown with a hesitation. While he's doing the hesitation, he's gathering into his shot. And it kind of, we talk about how skilled these guys are. It's so difficult from the range that he's shooting at to do a hesitation and getting your shot that quick. That's what separates the superstars and the all-stars and just the role players and some random guys that are trying to make the league. That's what separates them. And Trae Young, he's a borderline superstar in my opinion. There's been talks about him being traded. I know that's been in his mind. The Lakers, somebody threw out a rumor of the Lakers would love to have him be there with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. So it's Trae Young, he's got a lot going on. And now you don't have DeJounte Murray because he's out here shoulder bumping folks. He's not available. So you have to be aggressive. And he started the game. The first play of the game, they got the ball at the tip. They throw it to Trae Young, dribbles up the court, doesn't pass to nobody, shoots around the same area where he shot the game winner, shoots a 3, knocks it down, sets the tone early.
Wow.
Like, I'm here. We know Murray's not here. Y'all think this is going to be easy? Hell no, it's not. Shout out to John Collins. He's been trashed this whole series.
He looked good.
He finally had a good game.
Yeah.
They need that. He finally had a good game. And yeah, if you're a Boston Celtics, you let one go. You're up by 13 in the fourth quarter with around 6 minutes to go. I don't know why the hell Missoula has Blake Griffin playing. Blake Griffin needs to retire. He is washed. His career. He's an Oklahoma guy. I can still hate on him. He is washed. Let him go. He is worthless. He came in and gave them no minutes. All he did was put them in foul trouble and let guys like Trae Young and Bogdanovic go to the free throw line and knock shots down to where they could get back in the game. I know Al Horford gave you nothing and you're trying everything. You need to go small and have Brogdon, Tatum, Brown, White, and Williams in at the same time. You need to play small because that big lineup, that's what cost them at the end.
So talk to me about this play at half court when you talk about what happened when Atlanta was up 1. This is when Boston's up a point, I believe it was, and to put Smart out there on Young right at the half court line, he gets called for a foul.
Stupid.
Did you agree with it being a foul? Is he saying he slapped the hand as he tried to knock the ball away?
No, just too much body.
Too much body in there.
For one,
why are you out there at the half court like that?
You outweighed Trae Young by 50 pounds, it looks like. If you bump him, he's going to fall.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
Right, you're losing the physics on that foul. You're right.
You got to understand who you are, Marcus Smart. You got to understand the time. And he's a very smart player, defensive player of the year. You want to give Trae Young pressure. I get that, but you want to be smart about it.
And he's got him cornered off. I mean, Trae's still dribbling the ball, but he's got him kind of cornered. So make him go one way or the other. Don't get that close. I mean, Smart's one of the better defenders in the league, or at least he was at one point. Maybe he's not today.
He still is.
But he's still respected as one of those guys. That was confusing to me. Zay, as good as the Celtics are, they will go through weird sections at end of games, big moments in games, full possessions that feel important where Jason Tatum doesn't touch the ball. And then the Jayden Brown flying in the lane out of control, just throw up a prayer. I was like late in the game when they absolutely needed something. And he rushed it. Didn't take the time. They just go into weird spots late in games. I don't know if I trust the Celtics to go all the way because of moments like that.
Yeah, it's tough. And Trae Young, he just had one of those games. When Jaylen Brown's cooking like that, you got to let him cook. He's one of the best two-way players in the league. He was eating last night.
Oh, he had
Jason
a great
Tatum,
night. 35 last night?
Yeah, 30. Yeah, 35. And Jason Tatum, he kind of took a back seat to that. And there were times where he should have been aggressive, and they had some really bad turnovers towards the end of the game that led to the Hawks coming back from 13. So, yeah, again, you're up by 13 points, 7 minutes to go. You got to win that. At home, you got to win that game.
We said it yesterday. All three of those home teams, it just felt like there were no excuses. You got to finish. You got to close the door. But they get outscored by 12 in the fourth quarter.
Like Missoula, Blake Griffin played 6 minutes, and they were some of the worst 6 minutes I've seen. He had a 0 plus minus, so it wasn't too bad. They were trading buckets.
He didn't technically hurt.
Yo, it was. I was like, what are you doing out here,
He's
bro?
not good.
2 fouls. But like, if there's something about fouling guys, and they go to the line, and they might not necessarily have a rhythm, and then they make 2 free throws, and all of a sudden the rim's an ocean.
Yep.
And now they can start knocking shots down. So that's what I mean by
it helps to calm the team as well.
Exactly.
Gives Atlanta that thing of let's take a breath, let's get some points.
Yeah, let's get our energy
let's
back.
Get back in. And then Collins, that big. I thought the shot to make it cut it to like 111, 105, something like that.
Yeah, the 3.
To cut it back to a 2-possession game, and it was Collins that hit it. I thought that was a huge bucket. Then you could almost feel Atlanta thinking, "Oh, okay," and you could feel that crowd tighten up a little bit. Like, this is a ball game now.
Yep.
Yeah, out of nowhere. So Celtics don't get it done, but then the other two teams do finish it off. Denver wins, and the Joker throws out one of his crazy triple-doubles, 28, 17, and 12. Just in case, Zay, we thought maybe he wasn't the craziest weapon we've ever seen at center. 28, 17, and 12, but he was outdone once again by his teammate, Mr. Murray, with 35. Jamal Murray is out of his mind right now.
Yeah, he looks great, and I'm so ready for the second round series between the Nuggets and the Suns. I mean, the Suns looked incredible last night. Devin Booker, 47 points. I mean, they looked bad. They had to come back. They were down by double digits at one point, but then when Devin Booker said, you know what, I'm not going to let us lose, and had an amazing second half, he took over the game, and it's crazy. KD, he said D-Book's performance was spiritual, but KD loves playing off D-Book. You could tell. Like, KD doesn't get to have those moments very often where he could just stand in the corner and wait for the ball to be swung to him, and he could just take catch and shoots. Jumpers, catch and shoot threes, or play off, closeouts. It's not, you don't see the same KD that's throwing out insane crossovers and breaking guys' ankles. He's not that guy anymore. He's not going to exert that energy. He knows he doesn't have to. He's kind of taking a Dirk approach where I'm taller than everybody. I'm going to get to my spots, and I'm going to work on these things, the shots that I shoot like 500 a day. I'm going to take those jumpers in the game because it doesn't matter who guards me.
Right.
I'm going to get there.
When I rise, you can't get there.
He was shooting like he makes one dribble, and he got a little step on you with the left hand, and then he'll shoot a little fadeaway to the right. You can't stop it. You can't block it.
It's so beautiful how he gets into that shot.
It's amazing.
Oh my God.
It's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen by any basketball player.
Yeah.
So now you got Book. Now the focus is on him because he's starting to dominate. You got to pick your poison. And looking at this next series with the Nuggets and the way Murray's playing, all the other guys, like there's 2 role players on each side that are going to be huge to this series because we know what the Joker is, 2-time MVP. We know what Kevin Durant is. We know what Devin Booker is. We know what Jamal Murray is. But what is Chris Paul going to bring to this series? What does he have left? Who is Mike Malone, and the Nuggets going to put on Chris Paul? What's DeAndre Ayton going to do with Joker? How is DeAndre Ayton going to make Joker work on the offensive end? And so Joker's going to have put him in pick and rolls with Bug. Joker's going to have to play D this series. He's going to have to.
Last night, I thought Ayton's 21 points, that 9 of 18 performance, I wonder if that is Phoenix trying to think of, okay, because he has to be active in that next series.
He has to be amazing.
If Joker doesn't have to think about him, Denver's going to beat them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the other side, Michael Porter Jr. is a mismatch nightmare. And I think they're going to put KD on him. And KD has become a really good defender as of late, especially when he went to the Warriors. He could focus on defense a little more, and he's gotten better throughout the later stages of his career. So that matchup is very intriguing. The Bruce Brown, him on Devin Booker, making him work and do different things. Aaron Gordon, he'll probably guard KD on the other side. What does that mean? Who's going to check Aaron Gordon because he could do some things offensively. It's a very intriguing series. I'm really looking forward to it. And, yeah, it's going to be fun.
There's a lot of good stuff coming in the NBA. We'll talk about about those 4 games tonight. Continue to break things down. Somebody sent us a text. It says Trey Lance must go to the same barber as Trae Young. Wow, that's just rude. That is so rude.
No barber. That's the whole
That's
point.
no barber.
No barber.
They need to find a
just
barber.
natural. Like Trae Young just wakes up, gets out of bed, looks in the mirror, brushes the teeth, and just goes to practice.
It looks like it looks like a different version of what Rod Stewart was rocking in the 80s. We used to always get on Rod like, how is it that all the women love him? It looks like he just gets out of bed and goes to the stage. He looks like he's never touched it. What is going on? All right, so a lot of NBA to hit. We got football as well coming up at 105 and 205 today. Our normal guests on Wednesday, Justin Wells of Inside Texas at 105, Chip Brown at 205 from Horns247.com. Chip will be on his way back from Houston talking about that SARC event with the Houston Longhorn group today, so we'll get his immediate thoughts there. Up next, though, a national perspective on the draft. Joe DeLeon, NFL draft analyst for the Believe Network, and his thoughts on Bijan, the second pick, the Texans, the Cowboys, and whatever else we can fit in next on the Horn.
Chad and Zay.
Oh, I better know this one. A little Sweet Emotion from Aerosmith. God, I remember learning this song when I was a kid, and Steven Tyler and the whole deal. They're one of my favorite bands. Aerosmith getting us started. You into Aerosmith, Zay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, they got some hits.
I might have to find an old Aerosmith record for you to check out.
I'm with it.
In fact, the album this song is on is one of their best. I believe that would be Toys in the Attic. There's a thought for Zay once we get back to the album stuff. All right, so Aerosmith gets us started musically. We're already off and running talking NBA, but we got a lot of football to get into. So it's Chad and Zay on a Wednesday. Let's go to the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. Nice enough to give us a little time as he did a couple weeks ago. He is Joe DeLeon from the Believe Network, NFL draft analyst, host of Believe in NFL Draft Prospects. Joe, we appreciate the time. I know it's a crazy week for you. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Man, we're glad to have you on again. We wanted to get your kind of updated thoughts on a few things. Let's just go right towards the top of the draft here. This discussion around the number 2 pick, Houston, C.J. Stroud, the smoke screens, all that's going on. What are you hearing right now about that second pick?
Yeah, I think that as we've heard throughout this whole process, and I've heard indirectly through this whole process, that they're not in love with any of these quarterbacks. They haven't really found a reason to like any of the available options. And I think with that in mind, they're not going to force it. They're not going to go with somebody that they're not in love with, and they're going to wait until next year. It's a situation where Nico Ryans has a lot of runway, so he doesn't need to rush it if they don't feel comfortable with that decision. So I think this is going to be one of the top edge rushers. If it's Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson, I'm leaning Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech right now, similar to what happened last year with Trayvon Walker, the bigger, stronger, more high upside player compared to the guys who played better in Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson. The Jaguars went with Walker. I think the same is going to happen with Wilson, who big, strong kid, super long arms, blows up blockers super easily, doesn't always hit home on sack production, but is a disruptive player that I think could turn out to be a fantastic pro in year 2 or year 3.
Mm.
You know, Joe, we know all these GMs and front offices, they are nitpicking each player to the T. And now you hear all these different stories about C.J. Stroud and Will Levis and Stroud and the cognition test and not, at the Manning camp and blah, 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 blah. Why do you think this is going on? And do you think this is really affecting C.J. Stroud's stock? And how do you think this is hyping up Will Levis's?
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's going to be some story out there that C.J. Stroud's teammates didn't want to go to his birthday party too, and I think it's just that situation where we're overanalyzing things, and I think that the media sometimes latches on to small little pieces that they get from maybe from people a part of these NFL organizations. The benefit to any team that likes C.J. Stroud that's outside of the top 10 or the top 5 is they're hoping that the media pushes these narratives so that they can fall into their lap, that they don't have to trade up too far to get him. I think what might end up happening is he might be the 4th quarterback taken, and I think like a team like the Vikings or the Titans could just be patiently waiting to see what happens and then move up and go and get him for a pick that's not as expensive. But I'm not too worried on C.J. Stroud. I think he's one of the more natural throwers, if not the most natural thrower in the class. I understand some concerns on his decision-making ability as he's perfect on that first read, but once he gets to the second read, he's a little bit indecisive. He thinks a little bit too much. It's going to take some time for him to get acclimated to the NFL, but I could very well see him staying within the top 10.
Talking with Joe DeLeon, again, at Joe DeLeon on Twitter, if you want to give him a follow, part of the Believe Podcast Network, and as I mentioned earlier, former long snapper at Rhode Island, so he knows about big-time draft pressure on this time of year. Come on. Joe, let's stay with that position. Do you think Levis is going to be the second quarterback taken after how you're seeing things reorganized? Do you think Levis goes off the board second, quarterback-wise?
Yeah, I think more than ever that has become more of a realistic outcome. I don't believe the whole Reddit thing. I think that it's just such an unreliable source, and there's been, frankly, no information from inside sourcing that has indicated that he could be a Carolina Panther. But I think at that third spot with the Arizona Cardinals, I really do think that somebody is going to trade up into that position to take Will Levis. And the attraction makes sense. He's a big, strong kid. He's got a powerful arm. He's a good above-average athlete. He's really tough. He's lauded as a very high-character guy. The decision-making is not great at times, and it's a little questionable, and I think he needs to improve his touch on his throws, despite him having a big arm. But because of all that, it checks every box for every old-school NFL evaluator. So him being the second quarterback, I think the argument certainly could be made.
Joe, talking about Bijan Robinson, the Texas running back, we know a lot of teams are thinking about moving up to maybe get him, and we know the stigma on drafting a running back in the first round. What does it mean for the second contract? What does it mean for your ball club? Where do you see him? Now we are almost 24 hours out. Where do you see him going, and could you see him maybe drop into where the Cowboys are at 26?
Yeah, I don't see him falling further than 20 or 25 at the very latest. Bijan Robinson's a top 5 talent in this class. It just hurts him that positional value doesn't really match the talent. He's going to be a really impactful rookie, and I think if he's on the right roster with a good offensive line, a playoff contending team, he could be like a 1,500-yard rusher in his first year, which sounds crazy to say, but he is ready to step in and make some noise right away because of the explosiveness, because of the power that he brings to the position. But we got to look at who might be in a position to take him that they're not going to be assuming he's going to fix all of their problems like a bad football team would. I think that the Eagles at 10 are the first realistic option, but they're not usually a team that drafts running backs that early. I think that the Los Angeles Chargers are certainly a very realistic option. And then I'd also pay attention to maybe the Minnesota Vikings, who have made indications that they might want to move on from Dalvin Cook. And then absolutely the Dallas Cowboys. The argument can be made because of we know that Jerry Jones loves drafting running backs in the first round, and I'm sure that he's in love with a Texas kid being the successor to Ezekiel Elliott. But any of those teams are going to definitely take him, I think, somewhere in the first round.
Joe, what do you make of this discussion about the 8th pick with Atlanta being a spot where Bijan could end up? Would you see the Falcons maybe making a move like that in the top 10, or do they have other needs to deal with?
I think it's really realistic. And the reason why is we know that Arthur Smith loves running the football. And his time in Tennessee, he had Derrick Henry, and he hasn't had that type of guy so far in Atlanta. So he absolutely could be chasing getting a bell cow guy to lean on. My only pushback on why I'd hope that's not the decision that they make is, like I mentioned earlier, you can't draft Bijan and assume he's going to solve all your problems. I think the Atlanta Falcons have so many holes defensively. I think their offensive line, there's still some question marks and there's inconsistencies there. They don't even really have an answer at quarterback yet. So for them to address running back before those other things, it smells very similar to what the New York Giants did when they drafted Saquon Barkley second overall, where you drafted Saquon, they still stunk, they still lost a bunch of football games. Saquon was great, but it was for no real positive outcome. So I'm hoping that's not the case, but it really does make a lot of sense because Arthur Smith loves running the football as much as we know he does.
Joe, somebody's stock that has risen crazy during these last few weeks is Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech, the edge rusher. You know, he's gigantic, and I could see the upside with a lot of teams wanting him. What do you see in somebody like that? Because we watched a lot of the Big 12 this year, and I did not see him being this high and getting this much love once the draft came around.
Yeah, the love for him is one of those cases of just measurables. He's got the longest wingspan out of all the edge rushers. He's got, the most powerful build out of all the edge rushers. You watch him on tape, and you just see him completely overpower guys. He demolishes tight ends. He blows up offensive tackles because he's just so strong. Again, the thing where I'm a little bit hesitant on him is his flexibility isn't great. He also doesn't consistently hit home. He's one of those guys who's so focused on blowing up his blocker, but doesn't always go and find the quarterback effectively. But I think if you can tap into that, you can coach him up a little bit. He could be a serious problem. At the very least, if he isn't that Texans pick at number 2, I don't see him sliding out of the top 10.
We're talking with Joe DeLeon. Again, check out Believe in NFL Draft Prospects on the Believe Network. Joe, let's go to that 26th pick and the Cowboys. You know we got a lot of fans around here wondering what's going to happen. So let's say Bijan's already gone. What do you think the Cowboys may be looking at 26? What are you hearing from them that a matchup for them that makes sense for you at 26?
I think their two best options are drafting a wide receiver or a tight end. And considering that this wide receiver class isn't great, I would maybe consider Jordan Addison at this spot. But one name to pay attention to is Dalton Kincaid, the Utah tight end. If Michael Mayer's off the board, Kincaid is a great flex tight end, a guy who can play in space, in the slot, a good vertical threat, strong route runner. Replacement for Dalton Schultz. I think Dalton Kincaid would be an awesome weapon to add in for Dak Prescott, who, frankly, right now just needs a nice go-to threat, and I think Dalton Kincaid can provide that.
You know, Joe, everybody wants to talk about Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and the rest of the quarterbacks from Stroud to Bryce Young, but Hendon Hooker, his name's starting to come up a lot. And before he tore his ACL at Tennessee, he was absolutely balling. I mean, that game against Alabama definitely comes to mind. With that injury, what are GMs and people in the front office looking at him? Are they looking at him as more of a project or just a guy that once he gets healthy, he can maybe come and play right away?
Yeah, I think that Anthony Richardson is just such a amazing talent athletically that I think a lot of teams aren't going to want to pass up on that opportunity to develop and work with him. And I pay close attention to the Indianapolis Colts at 4, who are in a little bit of a rebuild mode and can have a little bit more runway with a new head coach in Shane Steichen. But Anthony Richardson's just such a great runner of the football. I think that you see him being inexperienced rather than unknowing and raw of being capable of succeeding. There's so many highlights that you get from him on film, but him being inexperienced shows up where he gets flustered. The game starts to move a little bit too fast for him. And I know that a guy like that, who's a natural athlete, eventually, if you get him enough reps, he'll calm down, he'll figure it out, and he's going to get better. It just might take a year or two for him to get better, but let him go out there, let him make mistakes, and then eventually I think he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL if he succeeds.
Joe, back to the Texans for a quick sec. You mentioned the second pick and what you're hearing about them. Just to be clear, do you see them making both of their first-round picks and not taking a quarterback? The word you're hearing is they're just not going to be interested in anybody in this draft, quarterback-wise?
Yeah, I really don't think that they're going to take a quarterback with either spot. It really feels that I've heard a problem that they've had, it feels like, with every single quarterback. And it just seems as though if you're not excited, what's the point of pushing that situation and bringing in a guy that you're not totally 100% all on board on? I wouldn't be surprised if they don't just take two defensive players. DeMeco Ryans is a defensive-minded guy, so you throw in two talented young defensive players into the mix, and then next year you get your quarterback. If it's Drake May or if it's Caleb Williams, things could be pretty scary by 2025.
Joe, before we let you go, is there a Brock Purdy in this draft to you? Not necessarily a guy picked at the very end, but a guy that is very undervalued that's going to be picked on maybe the third day that you could see coming in and making a difference. You know, Isaiah Pacheco comes to mind for Kansas City, somebody like that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's particularly a Brock Purdy at the quarterback position. This year's class doesn't have a lot of late round gems at the quarterback position. I think one player to pay attention to as a day 3 pick that I don't feel is getting enough love is Ricky Stromberg, the center from Arkansas. He's been pushed down as this day 3 pick, but he's my number 1 center on my board. I think he's really experienced, very flexible, powerful, moves really well. Knows exactly what he needs to do and the right angles that he needs to take. I think the NFL's only concern with Ricky Stromberg is just his physical profile. They're not in love with the way that he's built, which is a little strange thing to get caught up on. But just like Creed Humphrey a few years ago was somebody who slid the Oklahoma center and is now one of the better centers, if not one of the best centers in the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think somebody can get an absolute steal with Ricky Stromberg.
Joe DeLeon, NFL draft analyst. Check out Believe in NFL Draft Prospects. Joe, before we let you go, there was a leak today that your cognition test has been put into question from the time when you were leaving Rhode Island. Can you confirm or deny?
I can absolutely deny. I got good grades. I'm gonna stand behind that.
All right, just wanted to check. I just wanted to make sure. We appreciate the time, man. I know it's a crazy time, but I know it's a time that you're loving right now. So enjoy all the draft stuff, and we'll check in with you after it's all said and done and see how everybody did, if that's cool.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome. Thanks,
man.
Joe. Joe DeLeon, NFL draft analyst there. Yeah, former long snapper at Rhode Island. Interesting stuff. Tyree Wilson would be his pick right now for number 2 at the Texans. They just aren't taking a quarterback. I haven't heard anybody that's willing to say they're taking one. So he said it's Wilson or Anderson there. Wide receiver or tight end for the Cowboys is what he is looking at right now. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, next year the quarterback class is deep. It's just if you're a Texans, are we tanking again? Like, Davis Mills, he's all right. And the AFC, I guess it's just so stacked that you assume even with getting Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson, you're going to be right back here in the top 5 again.
I think the idea would be that you're going to make another move there, some kind of move. You've got Case Keenum as a guy that's been in the league and can give you something as a backup. I wonder if there's another move that would be out there. Some veteran type of guy that I'm trying to think of who it might be. Somebody else's backup.
Like you're weirdly hearing Lamar Jackson rumors to Houston.
I mean, if they could figure that out, that'd be truly interesting if they could get that going. But yeah, and I understand the theory. If you're not absolutely in love, and if DeMeco Ryans looks you dead in the face and says, "I'm the guy that's deciding what happens here. I will live and die with this thing," and I'm telling you, one of those guys next year will be incredible. And yeah, you asked the right question, though. Are you officially tanking again? Are you about to go through the process to go get Caleb Williams again? Or do you need to take your chances on somebody in this group? Yeah, I'm not sure. Or do they end up somewhere in between, again, with a Case Keenum / Mills / I don't know.
I've seen multiple reports that the Heisman winner in 2022 would be the number 1 pick if he was in the draft this year.
Caleb would be the number 1 guy.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Then that would make sense. But obviously they would have to do a lot of losing to get back to that point again. And they showed last year they couldn't even figure that part out to get to the number 1 pick, which they should have right now. But they don't. All right, so thanks to Joe for his time. We'll continue to talk some draft. Justin Wells of Inside Texas at 1:05. We'll talk a little Longhorn stuff, the good news on the basketball side. With the men's team, obviously not so great news right now with baseball, although they did get the win last night over Texas Southern. And Justin is a Cowboys fan. What does he want the Cowboys to do tomorrow night with that 26th pick? And where does he think Bijan ends up and makes the most sense? We'll get into all of that. Up next in the crap bag, though, we asked the question yesterday, and I got the response on email. One of my favorite listeners, Ole Miss Girl, with her thoughts on Chris Beard as the head coach. This is pretty interesting. We'll get you her response and a couple other things next on The Horn.
Chad and Zay.
Okay. I like it. Very groovy. I don't know it, but I like it. Should I know this?
No.
Okay.
This is a Dave in the Cave exclusive.
A Dave in the Cave special. All right, who is it?
Tale of the Three Cities. That's the song.
Whoa.
Sal Soul Orchestra is the group.
Wait, salsa like I'm dipping salsa?
No, Sal Soul Orchestra.
Sal Soul Orchestra.
Yeah.
Okay. We got guys in the building that are even more music snobs than we are, giving us ideas. Dave is one of them, the Sal Soul Orchestra. Also, our man E. Kruger gave me the CD, his only copy of that rapper he was telling us about.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
What's his name? Like Iceberg Slim or
Yeah,
whatever
Iceberg Slim.
from the mid-'70s?
Yeah, he was a pimp.
Yeah. And apparently the album is just basically like an audio version of him reading a book about being a pimp in the 70s.
Yeah, about pimping.
So I have the CD if you're interested. You still have a CD player?
I do not.
Okay. I have like one or two at my disposal.
I'm sure I could go look up Iceberg Slim and find something.
All right, so we got all that going on. So Sal Soul Orchestra and Aerosmith getting us started musically. We've got our man Justin Wells coming up from Inside Texas and On3.com. If you're just jumping in, Kawhi Leonard and a torn meniscus got the show started today on kind of that note with the NBA. Now, somebody did text us, as a Spurs fan, it's hard for me to feel sorry for Kawhi. I do always wonder how Spurs fans deal with that whole story.
Yeah,
He helped them get that last title. He was the MVP, wasn't he?
MVP
of that series.
2014.
And they thought he was their second bridge. They got this amazing bridge from David to Timmy, and they thought they were getting the ultimate next bridge, and it would just keep going, and it didn't happen that way.
He was next.
Yeah.
He was next. Then the Zaza Pachulia thing happened, and obviously the front office in San Antonio and Kawhi, they weren't seeing eye to eye. And you look now, fast forward to now, Chad, think about Kawhi not trusting his body then. And think about where he is now, all the injury problems, the torn ACLs, the torn meniscus and stuff like that. He might have had something there. Knowing this body, knowing
Maybe.
like, hey,
Yeah.
I know my body, guys. If I go out there, I could get seriously injured. And we've seen him get seriously injured a lot. That's been the problem with his tenure in Los Angeles. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, I feel your pettiness, Spurs fans. I get it.
Yeah, no, it's understandable, I guess. A lot of good NBA last night. Got 4 games coming tonight, and we will get you a little bit more on those as we roll through. Let's get you a crap bag here. Got a response from a fan and listener, and a couple other notes for you, including if you're a freaky wrestling fan like me. Here we go.
Chad's crap bag.
Crap bag. If you need an easy way to remember it, just think of a bag of crap.
Brought to you by AV Consultations, 255-8678, or go to avconsultations.com. Dark Side of the Ring is coming back a little later this spring. We'll get to that. But first, we were talking about Chris Beard yesterday and Ole Miss, and I told Ole Miss girl happy birthday because I messed up on her birthday a couple of days ago and didn't mention it. But I've been forgiven for that officially. But we were talking about Chris Beard and the fact that he just had the what's the young man's name?
Austin Nunez.
There you go. A San Antonio area kid, right? That he just got to commit to Ole Miss. So you were asking, hey, what does Ole Miss girl think of Chris Beard? Well, she did respond via email yesterday. First off, she says she's really into this women's coach, Coach Yo McPhee McQuinn. They beat Stanford, almost beat South Carolina this year.
If you beat Stanford, I'm a fan of you.
There you go.
Absolutely.
That'll get you. Yeah.
Yeah, you know how I feel about old girl over there with the terrible bob.
You're not Team Tara.
Never.
No, you're
She's
not.
Such a hater.
Yeah. So she's into that, and she says, as far as Coach Beard goes, I don't know about him. I suppose he's the best men's basketball coach we've ever hired based on qualifications. He was hired after I left campus. Coach Beard says all the right things, but I feel that if he succeeds after, say, 3 years, he'll go somewhere else. Lots of places said he's a great hire. He's a great hire based on qualifications, but Ole Miss tossed out ethics by ignoring the alleged crime. So it's a poor hire. You know, if NCAA damaged coaches like Sean Miller can get hired again, a coach with an alleged domestic assault will certainly be available. And I suppose that's my biggest problem with him is the alleged domestic assault. I'm female, so I feel this one. I have looked, and I have not seen any of the women head coaches at Ole Miss say they are okay with Coach Beard's hiring. So I guess I will have to wait and see, and I'm going to stay in the passenger car of the Lane train for now. That comes from Ole Miss girl. She's also Astros girl. She always wants me to know she's an Astros fan, just to stick it into the Rangers fan part of me. Your SEC sister and a proud supporter of the Men's College World Series champs and the World Series champs. So there you go, a realistic look at the fan that gets Chris Beard now.
Yeah, I know a lot of people feel that way for her.
Thanks to Ole Miss Girl, as always, for listening and contributing. Shout out to the Oxford crew, and thanks to them for listening in, checking in all these years. So one other crap bag item here. If you're a wrestling fan, Dark Side of the Ring is coming back. The Vice documentary series looking at pro wrestling and going hour by hour. Zay, have you peeked in on any of these? Do you have the Vice channel on your TV?
I do. I feel like I've seen one. I think I saw the Benoit one.
Oh, wow. Now that's a dark place to start.
I think I saw that one.
There's definitely some that are a little more upbeat than that. But it is it's called Dark Side of the Ring for a reason. They tell the real serious stories of professional wrestling. And this is season 4. And here are some of the ones that jumped out to me. JYD. That'll be a fantastic episode. The Junkyard Dog getting his own episode. Marty Jannetty, the other half of the Rockers. Magnum TA. And Doink the Clown is getting his own episode.
Wow.
I have no idea where that's going to go. I don't know the story, but they are going to break it all down for you. So May 30th is when they are back. May 30th on Vice, Dark Side of the Ring. They've got 10 new episodes coming this season. So pay attention to that. Also, a quick note. Did you see the Titans are going to get a new stadium?
I did.
And they've got more public money in this thing, over $1 billion of public money than anything they've ever done. But here's what I'm interested in. It's a domed stadium, which probably means it's going to have to be turf. And this grass turf thing is really starting to get rolling in the NFL, and they're starting to see numbers from last year that they don't like. They're seeing more non-contact injuries on the turf than grass. They're not seeing it evened out anymore like they did a couple years ago. Players Association's kind of pissed. But I don't know if the league's going to really react. I think we're going to continue to see more turfed, covered stadiums.
Yeah, costs a lot more money to take care of grass, and we know guys like Odell Beckham. He's a huge advocate for grass fields because he was one of the ones that got hit with one of those non-contact injuries in the Super Bowl playing on the turf field. So,
on his home turf.
Home turf, yeah, ironically. And we saw kind of how it was a mess during the Super Bowl, especially with the Eagles, like a team that was one of the best of all time of getting to the quarterback and getting sacks and getting pressure. They struggled getting their foot in because of the grass was so poor in Arizona in Super Bowl 57.
Yep.
So, that's the issue that you're going to be dealing with. How is the condition going to be as you go from week 1 to week 18 and so on and so on. But, yeah, anything that helps the players help, I'm for.
Yeah.
But, it's tough when you're talking about cost of these prices and stuff.
Yeah. You just gave both sides of it, though. The league will come back and say, Philly, we can get you better footing. It's turf. We'll get you more consistent footing with the turf.
Yeah.
And Beckham's got his argument the other way. Whoa, the consistency of that turf in one spot is what I'm talking about. So that battle's going to go back and forth. But Tennessee will have a new stadium. They think they're going to be ready in 2027 for the Titans to get into their new stadium.
That country money.
How about that?
That Broadway money.
That's that Nashville money, ladies and gentlemen. All right, coming up, your 1 o'clock hour, Justin Wells of Inside Texas will start it off as he does every Wednesday. His thoughts on some Longhorn stuff, plus what the Cowboys may do at 26, and where does he think Bijan ends up in the draft? That's coming up on the Horn. All right, let's go hour number 2 on a Wednesday, one day away from the NFL draft. Talking a lot about that today. NBA just providing a lot of good stuff these last few days. All three games come down to the end last night. A night after LeBron and Butler had their shows, and tonight we've got 4 games on the slate. We'll be talking about that throughout the show. We also, as we mentioned, a lot of draft stuff. Remember, all the Pluckers locations will be represented in the greater Austin area. Get on out to your favorite tomorrow. There'll be a Horn personality there taking you through the draft party. It's a lot of fun. Get on out there, make the pick for a team. If you're right, the whole place gets a special until the next pick is made. It's always a lot of fun. I can't remember how many years this is. 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 years. It's been a long time that we've been doing this. It's a lot of fun. Get on out to Pluckers for that tomorrow night. And remember, we've got the Cowboys draft coverage for you starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow night right here on the Horn. And Rod and Harge will be out at the Pluckers Link location from 3 to 6, getting you ready for the draft. All right, let's go to the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. It is our normal Wednesday guest here on Chad and Zay. I'm Chad Hastings, by the way, and he's Isaiah Collier. The man joining us now is the one and only Justin Wells of Inside Texas, on3.com, at Justin Wells 2424. He's a Cowboys fan. He's excited about tomorrow night. What's up, Justin?
Hey now, what's going on, gentlemen?
Man, we are getting ready for the draft. I'm going to get your thoughts on that. But why don't we start with the good news for Texas men's basketball? The last couple of weeks we've been talking to you, and it's been a little bit up in the air of where things are going. But some really good news on the front court side of things. Now they're getting to dealing with kind of the guard part of it. But what'd you make of Rodney Terry's week?
That last week was pretty tough. You lose Tyrese Hunter and Dylan Mitchell to the NFL, the NBA draft, and obviously Ontario Morris hits the portal, and then your new future point guard is headed to Australia, to the land down under. So Rodney Terry had to be thinking, man, this first few weeks on the job, this kind of sucks, but it's basketball, and you got the portal, and that's the beauty of it, because it giveth and it taketh away. And at this stage, adding Virginia Post Caden Cedric was a big get. They've got to replenish that paint, and bringing him in, former starter at Virginia, is going to be big. But I think Dylan Dessou announcing on Sunday that he's returning was the biggest get so far. That's kind of how basketball teams and at this level are going to, replenish. That's how they're going to do it. You're going to lose a handful of the portal every year. You're going to grab a couple from the portal every year, and then hopefully sign a couple in your recruiting class. And so I think Terry's this week got a lot better. Dessou just brings. You saw what he did. I think Chris Beard had him on a podcast from Ole Miss the other day, and he said, if Dessou doesn't get hurt, he thinks Texas winds up in the Final Four in Houston. And I think we can all agree with that, especially with his performance over the last month of the season. So getting Dylan back is really big, not just from a locker room standpoint, but obviously from a performance standpoint. Adding Cedric is a big get. He does a lot of good things on the floor, especially on the defensive side, that I think this team needs. And I think he'll be a definite add in the paint as well. And now they wait on Max Abness from the point guard out of Oral Roberts, who I think we've actually mentioned him a few times over the last month about being a guy that's going to be heavily pursued. I know Texas is in the mix. Kansas State is pushing hard as well. And at the end of the day, I really feel like, Dylan Mitchell may be a guy that winds up sticking in the draft, depending on where he goes. Tyrese Hunter, I get a feeling, he's going to test the waters, but he's going to keep his eligibility. And so that could be something you can watch as well. So as bad as it looked last week with the way the team was going, it's kind of shifted back to a positive row on this time. And I think Rodney Terry's starting to get the ship back on course.
Mm-hmm. Jay Wells, with the draft coming up, Bijan Robinson, it seems like people are talking about him more and more every day. Every time I turn a TV on, there he is doing interviews and whatnot. But from a recruiting standpoint, here at the 40 Acres, you heard Steve Sarkisian today in Houston say he's going to be in Kansas City with Bijan. And it's been a long time that a head coach could go down to the NFL draft and support one of his offensive players. What does that mean for recruiting when guys who are getting recruited by Sark and this coaching staff see somebody like Bijan and say, oh, I could be that too?
I think it's a goodwill gesture. I think, Bijan is an incredibly, selfless kid that loves to get people involved. I mean, the truth, the stories of him hanging out with walk-ons because others weren't, those are true. And so I think he just has a glow about him, a charisma. And Sark wants to enjoy that. He invited him to go with him. I thought that was a big thing. I know he wanted Tashard Choice by his side too as well, because him and Coach Choice have built a great relationship. But from a recruiting standpoint, I'm not sure how much it hurts or helps when the head coach is there. But it's going to look good when Sark makes those phone calls in the next few days, going after recruits, and you're going to see shots of him on ESPN on Thursday night when Bijan gets drafted. That's a trickle-down effect. For a few years, Texas was getting negatively recruited in football because they weren't getting a lot of guys drafted, and now you're seeing that turn, and they'll reap the rewards of that in the 24, the 25 cycles, and on, because there's going to be a handful of more guys that go in the early first, second rounds over the next 2 years in Texas. So I think it shows Sark's got this program in the right direction. But at the same time, and I think it's going to help with recruiting because they're going to see a lot of exposure when Bijan walks across the stage. Throwing up the hook'em in front of Roger Goodell is probably going to be the best recruiting point you could have. And so it's going to be just such a good thing. I think it's funny that it's taken the national media a couple of months to learn about Bijan Robinson, because if you've paid any attention to Austin in the last 3 years, we've been singing his praises for a long time. And if you think he's going to get out of the top 15 picks in this NFL draft, you're out of your mind. They pick guys on potential, they pick guys on production, and they pick guys that can help the franchise. Bijan Robinson checks every single box. And that old adage that you can't spend a first-round pick on a running back, that's old school thinking. If you want to get into building a real franchise, you draft the best players on the board, and Bijan Robinson is without a doubt one of the top few players on this board.
So, Justin, you're saying top 15. So you're thinking either Atlanta, Philly, somebody like that is going to end up with Bijan?
He won't. He's not getting past 10 if Philadelphia stays there and gets him. That's okay. Going to happen. Now, if someone trades up, I think you're going to see people moving up.
Okay.
And the reason why is, like a team like Atlanta, Philadelphia needs Bijan to complete their roster. I think they become the best team in the NFC by a wide margin if he enters that. The Atlanta Falcons need him for production and selling tickets and jersey sales and all that goes around it. And I think that's why you're going to see over the next 24 hours, you're going to hear some rumors coming out about teams making moves, trading up, moving back, seeing what they can do, because I just don't think Philly's going to let Bijan go by at 10. So it's going to take somebody trading up beforehand to grab him, or if he sits there, Bijan will go to Philly. I think he fits everywhere. Chad, you know me. I could swear on a stack of Bibles I really don't need Bijan Robinson in Philadelphia, but I'm going to be ecstatic. I'm going to be ecstatic no matter where he goes, because the kid deserves everything that he gets. But if Atlanta were to trade up and snag him, I'll have to give one of those quiet fist pumps, because, hey, bring back the Dirty Bird. Jamal Anderson, he started it. Well, there's a few other backs that had came through from Michael Turner, Devontae Freeman, but none of them are like Bijan. Let's see what he looks like in that old school retro Atlanta Falcons gear. I'm starting to buy into this.
That'd be interesting. I wouldn't even need to trade up. They're at 8. I don't think anybody is going to be going after him before 8. Atlanta could just sit there and take him, right?
Unless Philadelphia. That's my only thought, was Philadelphia may try to move up a few spots if they think that's because look, if you look at Philly's roster, they need to restock the secondary. Look, tailback is the one thing. If there's two teams in this draft that can really solidify themselves as legitimate contenders for the next 5 years in the NFL, it's the Philadelphia Eagles or the Buffalo Bills. If you put Bijan in either one of those places, those programs become immensely better for the next 5 years.
Ugh. All right, stop talking about half of that. Just stop talking about half of that. We won't talk about that. Give me your well, actually, you know what? Give me a one more Longhorn thought here. Let me name 6 guys. Obviously, if Bijan goes in the first round, that gets rid of that offensive player curse for Texas has been hanging for a while. Let me give you 6 names: Bijan, Roschon, Ojimo, Overshown, Coburn, and Jamison. Do you think they all get drafted in this draft?
No.
Okay. Jamison gets left out?
All of them except for Jamison.
Yeah, okay.
I think Jamison will be a very highly coveted undrafted free agent.
Gotcha. And did I miss anybody? Anybody you think is going to –
Anthony Cook.
Okay.
I think Anthony Cook could slide in the 6th or 7th round.
Okay.
I think once more people look at him and he goes through his stuff, he's definitely going to be picked up if he doesn't get drafted, but I could see him sneaking in late.
Gotcha. Okay.
Jay Wells, what do you think about the new schedule that will be coming out the next few years? You got Michigan on the schedule and Ohio State, and going to the SEC, it's already going to be tough enough. How do you feel about playing those Big Ten teams?
I think the SEC, I think the ADs and the coaches are going to kind of snicker at Texas a little bit. I mean, when that first SEC meetings hits, and they're going to say something like, guys, we play in the SEC, so the non-conference, these are supposed to be cupcakes. Like the Citadel is supposed to be coming up. I'd heard about Old Dominion needed a spot. Like, what are you doing picking tough programs in non-conference? This is the SEC. We don't do that. The only program in the SEC that will literally go out and play a team that's not worth crap in non-conference is Alabama. They're the only one, and that kind of makes sense because they've led the conference for the last decade. And so you got to give Alabama and Nick Saban a lot of credit. They never back down from the tough non-conference ones. Everyone else, it's cupcake central, And so I think they're going to look at Texas and go, what are you doing? You're going to Michigan, but you still have to go to Gainesville and Athens and Knoxville and Tuscaloosa. What are you doing? And Texas is going to go, this is how we do business. We always play a good team in non-conference. That's what DeLoss Dodds did for years. That's what Chris Del Conte's tried to incorporate in his tenure. And so I love the trips to Michigan. I think that's going to be great. It's somewhere I've never been. I would love to go up to the Big House and see what that's like. The Ohio State stuff, that been there, done that. But you always want to make sure, you got the Buckeyes on a schedule because that's going to be must-watch television no matter what year you're in. But, no, I think overall the SEC teams are going to look at each other and think, why are they scheduling these tough schools in non-conference? Don't they know how we do this? Don't they understand their role in the system? And Texas is going to come in and do what Texas does, what they want.
And that's, Justin, it's a great point, and that's why the number of conference games is still hanging out there to me of, are they going with 9? Because one of the things the SEC does right now is that 8 conference game thing. That's how they continue to fix schedules, hide certain teams, build up 9 and 10 win teams that don't really exist. That's how they do it. Are they going to go to 9 games with Texas and Oklahoma? That'll help fix at least a little bit of that issue you're talking about.
I feel like that's probably going to be the move, but it may not be immediate. We may see that a couple years after Texas and OU are in the mix. It's hard to say, but I'm with you. That's kind of how. That's why you see some of these schools, playing junior colleges in November when they're, everyone else is in the midst of playing, their conference schedule, Division I. You've got SEC schools looking at NIA programs like Townsend and stuff. And so, I think that'll fix the schedule on a long-term basis. But to me, I still think one of the trickiest things the SEC does is the best teams don't play the best teams until the conference championship. It is so rare that the best teams play each other in conference. And that just seems utterly ridiculous. Like on one hand, Chad, how many times has Texas A&M played Georgia since they've been in the SEC?
Well, I know it's definitely one hand. It is literally once.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one time.
How long have they been in the SEC?
They got in the SEC in 2012, and they went to Athens in 2019. I know.
11 years.
Right.
They've played Georgia once.
One
And
time.
Texas has played Georgia as much as A&M has. So you could basically say Texas has played an SEC-like schedule as much as A&M has over the last 11 years.
It's crazy. If you go look at how many times Bama and Georgia have played in the regular season since, just pick a year. I think since 2008, it might be twice. I mean, it's silly what they do.
The SEC knows. Hey, listen, don't get it twisted. That they figured it out.
Oh, yeah.
They've tricked everybody. They have fooled the world into thinking this is how you do it because that's where the national champion comes out of. But it's funny that they don't beat up on each other to actually get to that stage.
And see, that's the beauty of this, Justin. What I want to know is when the SEC puts that big old friendly southern arm around Texas and Oklahoma and explains it to them, then how the non-conference works, will Texas and Oklahoma walk away thinking, oh, I guess I do need to get Lamar's number. I guess I do need to look up, whatever the equivalent is in Oklahoma, Chattahoochee Tech or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Texas and they're explaining the SEC rounds to you, you must be thinking, so I don't have to play Georgia but one time in the next 11 years?
Right.
I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm in. And then OU's like, hey, I don't have to play – wait a minute, I don't have to play Tennessee but one time in the next 12 years?
Yeah,
I'm in.
Oh man, I hope they
crazy.
don't. I hope they can fix that, but they may just keep on doing it. All right, Justin. Before we let you go, give us some Cowboy thoughts here. Pick 26 tomorrow night. Assuming you're right and Bijan is long gone, what do you want the Cowboys to put a star on?
I'm thinking. You know my thoughts when it comes to the first round of drafts. You always go offensive line. Do it religiously. Get you tackles every year, unless there's a Zach Martin. Get you tackles or offensive guards. That's the way you build. That's the way I build inside out. But that's not the way it's going to work. Dallas needs to go. I've thought about this a lot. I would really wish they would go corner to kind of knock down the other side with Trayvon Diggs. But I know they brought in a couple other guys, Gilmore and a few others that can probably hold it down for at least a season. I'm going tight end. And, it seems to be Michael Myers, the kind of the go-to guy, but I'm going to go out of the box a little bit. Give me some Dalton Kincaid. Give me the Utah tight end.
Okay.
That kid is freaking phenomenal. And I think he could come and do a lot of what this offense needs. They're going to draft another wide receiver or two. They're after adding a few in the offseason. They're going to go better there. But here's what we need to do. Cowboys are going to have to go running back earlier than they want because with Zeke gone and with Pollard coming off of his injury, you're going to have to draft at least one, if not two, to make sure that running back room is at least solid. It cannot be we'll just grab a couple rookie free agents and see how it works. This offense isn't going to flow without that running game, and we don't know when Pollard's going to be 100%. So that's what I've started envisioning a Rashawn Johnson in the second or third round there, or a number of tailbacks. The Tulane tailback, I think, if he was available, would be a steal. And so that first round pick needs to go at tight end. I would take Meyer, I would take Schultz or Kincaid rather, but. The next few rounds are really going to be what's telling. They need another safety. They need another corner. They're going to go defensive line because that seems to be a big emphasis over the last few seasons. But they're going to have to look at running back pretty early because that room went from a strength to a borderline weakness.
Jay Wells, last one for me. How frustrated are you as a Mavs fan watching Jalen Brunson go crazy for the Knicks?
Oh, that's just a rude question.
I'm not frustrated. I love Jalen Brunson. I was one of the guys on the table saying, listen, give the guy a max deal. He may not be a max caliber, basketball player, but he's a max caliber franchise player. What Brunson did for the Mavericks and for Doncic was so underrated. We just now are seeing the repercussions of that decision. It's almost similar to when Steve Nash left, except actually Dirk's game raised over the next few seasons when Nash left. And so now it's going to be Luka's turn. He's going to have to kind of raise that game. I love seeing Brunson do well. I think he's a great guy. I loved him at Villanova. I thought he did a lot of good things for the Mavericks. I thought he gave them an opportunity to re-sign him and to stay. He wanted to go home. He wanted to go the highest bidder. You can't blame him. It burns a little bit. It burns a little bit that Dallas isn't in the playoffs, but then there's that number 10 pick. And if they get if Kyrie stays in the mix, I think you're going to have a good little foundation for something to build on over the next season or two.
Brunson is hard to hate.
He is.
He is hard to hate. I don't care where he plays, man. He's just a guy you feel yourself pulling for. That's Justin Wells, Inside Texas, on3.com, at Justin Wells 2424 on Twitter. Justin, we appreciate it, brother. Enjoy the draft tomorrow night and over the weekend, and we'll review everything with you next week.
Appreciate it, fellas. Nothing but love.
Good.
Thanks, Jay Wells.
Good stuff. All right, Justin Wells in that group of people that says, yeah, Bijan's going first round. He says Bijan may not even get out of the top 10, and he's going to end up somewhere.
Have you ever done the Dirty Bird?
Me?
Yeah, you remember the Dirty Bird?
I remember it. I don't think I've ever done it, no.
Down the.
I've never actually done the Dirty
Oh,
Bird.
man, that Dirty Bird was so cold.
I guess I could. It didn't look that difficult, but I've never done it.
Okay.
That was Jamal Anderson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. That was good stuff. I really wish, because I think it started on the field, but it was in that time period where they brought him to the sideline and you couldn't celebrate in the end zone for part of it.
Okay.
Some of it was out on the field. Then even when they kicked him out, he did it on the sideline. That was good stuff, though.
Yeah, I was doing the Dirty Bird in flag football. They're like, hey, you play for the Ravens. We're like, it's a bird, ain't it? Damn it.
It's got wings.
Yeah.
It's got wings.
Yeah, I'm black like a raven.
Come on now. Thanks to Justin for his time. More draft talk coming up. NBA's got 4 games tonight. We'll get you set up for that. Plus, up next in a flex segment, we got an offer and commitment to talk about for the Flex family. Don't move. It's the Horn. All right, this is Chad. Let's talk sinus and snoring specialist. Man, if you're going to be up watching all these NBA games, NHL action, things go really late. Got to be able to rest well and sleep well. Thanks to sinus and snoring specialist, I'm doing just that. And a little bit of coffee helps, too, to stay up nice and late. Dr. Slaughter and his crew do incredible work over there with ear, nose, and throat. He is double board certified, like I always mention, meaning he's got surgical and non-surgical options that others just don't have. So I had moderate obstructed sleep apnea. You might be going through that as well. If you're keeping folks up, if you're waking yourself up in the middle of the night, if somebody, maybe your wife or husband, is telling you that they can hear you stop breathing. It's a scary thing. I've heard that with my wife, and she's trying to get that dealt with at Sinus and Snoring as well, because she had some pretty bad sleep apnea as well. It's a scary thing to hear. So once you get that information, you want to get to Sinus and Snoring. Call and set up your appointment today and let them help you out. 512-601-0303 or go to sinussnoringent.com. Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy.
Chad and Zay.
All right.
Wanna know?
Rolling through a Wednesday. All right. This is, I heard a rumor. Is that the name of the song or just rumor?
Yeah.
Is this Bananarama?
There we go.
Okay. There it is. Bananarama. For some reason, when it started, I had Jody Watley in my head, but then I realized, no, wait. I think this is something else. Shout out to Jody Watley, if she's still out there. I loved her, too. Bananarama, Sal Soul Orchestra, and Aerosmith all on the show today. Hope you're having a good Wednesday. Draft coming up tomorrow. We've talked about the draft party out at Pluckers. Get on out to your favorite Pluckers location. Sign up to pick for teams. If you get the pick right for a team, if you get the pick right, it's a special for the entire place until the next pick is made. It's a lot of fun out there, especially since we've got 2 Texans picks early, a Cowboys pick later on. The Bijan Robinson pick probably happens tomorrow night. So there's a lot going on there. Check out hornfm.com for the very latest info on that. A lot of good text rolling in on the Specs text line, 337-3776. Someone just sent us a 24/7 Sports mocked up report that Ralphie the Buffalo is now in the portal and is headed somewhere else. Well done. That's well played. Well played. This also, we're getting some thoughts in on the draft. Says, remember, Cowboys either drafted or signed as a free agent the kid from Florida State. Looked pretty darn good last year, so he may have a bigger role this coming season. That's Ronald Jones, I'm assuming, that they're referencing, right? Isn't that where Ronald went to school?
I don't remember when Ronald Jones went to school.
I think Ronald Jones was Florida State. I know he just came from the Bucs, but I do think he went to Florida State.
You know, before we get into the flex segment, Chad,
Yeah.
with Deion, guys that are leaving that came with him from Jackson State, that is alarming. But you're going to have to remember, Jackson State, HBCU, and Colorado are 2 completely different places.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Completely different communities.
Yeah, it's almost like a lot of people thought when he told them, hey, go ahead and get in that portal, that he was talking to a bunch of the kids in the Colorado locker room. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was also talking to some of the Jackson State guys.
He's talking to everybody.
Hey, you guys may not work here either. I don't know.
Yeah, because you're going for the coach and you want to play at a Power 5 conference somewhere like the Pac-12. I get that, but you still got to go to school. You still got to like living in that part of, outskirts of Denver. You know, that's a big transition.
Yeah, no, that's
especially
true.
if you're coming from Jackson State, Mississippi.
That's true. You're right. No, it's a big change. Of course, Ronald Jones is USC.
Oh,
my bad. My bad on that. So I'm not sure who they're referencing there with Florida State. Give me a little more clarification on the Florida State guy you're talking about. All right. A lot of stuff going on today. We'll get into some of the NBA matchups tonight. First off, let's get you that quick flex segment, an offer and a commitment to talk about.
Flex ATX for the best high school sports coverage. Listen to the Horn and go to FLXATX.com. Flex 30 is brought to you by Brain Vault. Brain Vault is a revolutionary and patented mouthguard that has been proven to help reduce the risk of concussion. Visit BrainVault.com and join the movement.
All right, here's a commitment for you. Go get that Pac-12 education, young man, and go to a beautiful part of the country. Tyler Knapp, the offensive lineman, 3-star out of Westlake, has committed to Cal. That is a beautiful part of the country up there.
Yo, smart fella.
Yeah, Northern California, obviously a good student. Listed here as a 3-star from what I'm seeing. All district, all state. This is his senior year, and he's already made that commitment. So right now, a verbal commit to Cal. 6'4", 280. Congrats to Tyler making that choice. Also, Zay, we continue to see more and more names on the list for Peyton Morgan, the talented defensive back, 4-star DB out of Weiss, listed here at 6'1", 175. TCU's on the list. He's now gotten an offer, and he was giving them a shout-out on Twitter. So I'm seeing TCU, Baylor, Colorado, U of H, Texas Tech, Vanderbilt, and Nebraska, just to name a few. Give you the idea, the kind of teams that are looking at Peyton Morgan.
Some big-time schools right there.
Yeah, so now we'll start to see kind of where the discussion goes with Peyton Morgan. Does he start to get some offers maybe from a little more of that blue blood group in college football, because obviously there's some teams that can play in that group I just mentioned, but there are also those groups that will grab a guy that is like a 3-star, maybe a low 4-star, and do all kinds of stuff with them, and then point to the draft and go, you realize people draft our guys, right? Like, you get that?
Oh, TCU has plethora of guys in this draft this year.
Yeah. So best of luck to Peyton Morgan and to Tyler Knapp in their senior year coming up. And another offer for Morgan. And again, Knapp deciding he is committing to Cal. Very cool. All right. So tonight, Zay, we're all going to need the coffee. We're all going to need to figure out a way to stay up. We get a double header in the NBA. And it is big-time teams in every game. You got Knicks-Cleveland at 6 on NBA TV, followed by Miami-Boston at 8:30. Then they go Lakers-Memphis, 6:30 TNT, followed by Golden State and Sacramento. Only the Golden State series won't end for sure. The other 3 could, and they're all road teams trying to close it. So Knicks, Heat, and Lakers all trying to win on the road to close these series out. But what a night, especially based on what we just saw. What we saw Butler and LeBron do. Now they've on a one-night turnaround, only one day off in between. Those guys have to try to recharge the battery.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens there. Obviously, the best game tonight is the 2-2 series tie with the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors back in Sacramento for Game 5. And the big question is, how will De'Aaron Fox's finger affect the game? And, he looked good shooting the ball against Casper. Now, keep that in mind. He was shooting the ball dry, just, taking shots, jump shots. It wasn't a game situation where.
So you saw him trying to kind of work it out and see?
Yeah, and he was knocking it down.
Okay.
He was knocking it down. Looked like the same form and everything. You saw the last shot he hit to make it 125 or 126 before, when it was a 4-point game and it became a 1-point game with the 3 he hit. He looked fine. His jumper looked fine. It looked smooth. The same shot that he's been killing the Warriors with the whole series. But what happens when he has that one deflection where the ball hits his hand and ricochets somewhere else and he feels it, or he goes for that one block, or he just catches the ball? We've all had that moment where you're just trying to catch a normal pass like we always do in basketball and your finger jams. There's all these things coming to mind. And, plus you're playing against guys like Draymond Green who know you got a finger issue. They gonna test it.
Sure.
Some way. It might not be the cleanest thing, but they gonna test it.
They might not even mean to do it sometimes. There could just be an inadvertent slap, here and there. That's a good point you bring up about the ball. I hadn't even thought of that. You and I were talking about guys slapping at your hands, but the ball itself can cause issues. Do you think he'll go with some kind of a wrap or whatever?
He has to.
It's
he has to protect it some way.
It's the tip of the index finger on the left hand.
Right. So
you think it's taped up in some way?
Yeah, you're going to have to protect it, but also there's that balance on protecting it and keeping it as free as possible where he could still be the same player or close to the same player. Like getting the balls in his hands all the time. He's creating, he's the reason why it's tied right now. He was the only one that played well when they went to Golden State. So they need him, and they're going to need him to stay with that same aggression. I like what he said, there ain't no way I ain't playing in this game. And with the Warriors now having the momentum, what is Steve Kerr going to do with Draymond Green? Is he going to start him tonight? Because he didn't start him in that Game 4. He let him come off the bench and let Looney start with Wiggins, Poole, Klay Thompson, and Steph. What is he going to do tonight? We'll see the adjustments there. We know Looney dominated Sabonis in San Francisco in those 2 games, dominated him on the boards. Is Sabonis the same Sabonis that he was in the first 2 games before getting stomped on? He hasn't looked the same to me. So is that affecting him? Malik Monk hasn't looked the same in Golden State than he did in Sacramento. They need more out of Kevin Huerter. He was trash in Game 4. Keegan Murray kind of came along in Game 4, so that's promising for the Kings. But, yeah, man, with the Warriors, just having that championship DNA, that's so important. And Jordan Poole finally getting his rhythm and confidence back, that's also important. It's going to be a fun game tonight for sure.
So back to the Steve Kerr decision here. I was about to suggest, do you just, go with Draymond and Looney, or maybe you go with Draymond and leave Looney on the bench. But would you maybe go with Looney at the beginning, leave Draymond on the bench to start with, because then you can affect the crowd a little bit? if you put Draymond out there right at the beginning,
They're going to boo him every time he
they're
touches
right
it.
away,
Yeah.
right away. Instead, maybe you let the game happen a little bit, hope that you end up with a good start, and then you're injecting Draymond in once the game gets going. I wonder what it's going to look like, especially with what you're talking about with Looney. The fact that Looney was so effective when he was out there and Draymond wasn't. I wonder if Steve Kerr is going to – and then is Draymond giving Kerr any advice again? Because that's why it happened, apparently. Draymond went to Kerr and said, by the way, I can come off the bench if you need me to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you feel like that's a good idea, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah, and remember, Golden State's record this year on the road, trash.
Oh, that's
Horrible.
true.
So keep that in mind. You know, they're going to need to get one.
Steve Kerr might need to start himself just to try to shake it up, right?
Yeah, he probably can still shoot it. If you leave him in that corner, I'd contest it because that dude, he can knock down shots during his playing days. But, yeah, that's a good point, Chad. What are they going to do with Draymond? Do you bring him in early? Do you start him with Looney? The beautiful thing for the Warriors' sake, Jordan Poole finally got that rhythm. So you feel comfortable him starting or coming off the bench. And he hasn't played well in game 1 and 2 on the road, Jordan Poole. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to it tonight. It's going to be a hell of a game, man. Harrison Barnes, we're going to talk about him in maybe in the next 7. We'll see.
Oh, okay.
We'll see.
All right.
But yeah,
Okay.
I know he's still replaying that missed 3-pointer in his mind.
Oh,
That's a tough one.
I am sure he is. It's 4 really interesting games tonight. Knicks trying to close that series in that first game. Then you got Miami trying to finish in Boston, the Memphis-LA game, and then, of course, Golden State and Sacramento. Big night in the NBA. We'll be talking about that. Coming up at 2:05, Chip Brown, horns247.com. He was at the Steve Sarkisian Houston event today as they start the barnstorming, talking to fans. We'll see what Sark had to say there and get Chip's thoughts on Bijan and the draft and Texas men's basketball and the week that they've had. Up next, though, it is Where Are We At in Society. We'll see if Zay wants to hit that NBA story or something else. Stay with us. It's The Horn.
Chad and Zay.
Like that. Song is like Nuke Lelouch. Announce your presence with authority. Get in. Do I have any shot here, Zay?
Yeah, you should.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Whoa. Got a little. Oh, we got the growl going. Is that Big George?
From who?
No? Like a little P-Funk?
No.
No? All right, who is it?
Cool in the Gang.
Whoa. My bad.
Spirit of the Boogie.
Okay. See, I'm used to that smoother delivery from the singer of Kool and the Gang. Is this the lead singer of Kool and the Gang that I'm familiar with getting all growly on me?
Well, it's probably somebody else.
Okay. Kool and the Gang did have a few people on stage. Kool and the Gang wasn't exactly a three-piece.
Oh, they were a gang. They were a crew.
Wasn't called Kool in the Group.
Yeah.
It was called Kool in the Gang. Man, that's some great stuff.
Cool and a couple guys.
Oh, my God. They were fantastic. That's one of the bands I wish I'd seen in the heyday, too. Wish I'd have gone to a Kool and the Gang show back in the day. Did not get that done. I don't know if Kool and the Gang's still out there. Need to go see them if they are. Need to go see. Whatever's left of Kool and the Gang, I want to check it out. I know Earth, Wind, and Fire and Lionel Richie are coming. That's a hell of a show right there.
So where else?
And I haven't seen either one, and they're both hitting Moody Center this year, I think.
Where are the rest of the Commodores?
I don't know.
Did they have a falling out? Like, were they salty when Lionel started, going all night long and stuff?
I don't know the full story of that.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what Lionel would tell us about that.
Because it's weird. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Are they coming together? Earth, Wind, and Fire and Lionel Richie?
Yeah, I'm assuming. Yeah. I'm guessing now that's both monster acts. My guess would be Earth, Wind, and Fire opens that show and Lionel is the headline.
I don't know.
Because he's Lionel Richie? I don't know. But Earth, Wind, and Fire's monstrous too.
Yeah, but I don't know where the Commodores are. I don't know how healthy everybody is. Lionel, shame on you if you're not touring with those guys still. Those are your boys. Without them, there wouldn't be a you.
That's true. I don't know what that story is. I do not know what that story is with the Commodores and Lionel. All right, so Kool and the Gang, Bananarama, Sal Soul Orchestra, and Aerosmith have all been a part of the show today. Remember, it is Wednesday and no Texas baseball tonight. They got it done last night, 18-3.
That way.
Over Texas Southern. Good grief, Zay.
Run the score up.
Whatever nerves you had were certainly gone early. It was 14-0 after 3.
Yeah. When they asked for the run rule, we should have been like, hell no, we playing to the end. We running the score up. Let's get everybody's confidence back. What we saw this past weekend can't be happening.
Yeah, they got the confidence back, I would assume. 18-3 last night. So with no Texas baseball, we got the full Wednesday lineup for you. Ball Don't Lie, of course, comes up at 3. 7 o'clock Wednesday night flex, getting you all the high school sports, the very latest. 8 o'clock Longhorn Blitz podcast, talking Longhorn football. Fight night with Eddie and Jordan at 9, talking about the fight game. And then at 10, sports guys talking wrestling. Stu and Justin getting into some pro wrestling talk. The very latest from all the different organizations, including WWE, adding a new championship belt, apparently, in the last week. All right, so lots of stuff happening. We got Chip Brown coming up here from horns247.com. He was in Houston today with the SARC event as they're starting the barnstorming, going around talking to fan groups around the state and starting in Houston today. That's coming up. But right now, where are we at in society? Let's see what Zay wants to get to.
Where are we at in society today?
All right, Zay, what do you got today?
All right, Chad, check those DMs so you get a gist of the topic today.
Here we go.
With Game 5 tonight in Sacramento, Sacramento Kings versus the Golden State Warriors. A little more info has came out about a couple of players on both teams. We all know Harrison Barnes. He was once a part of the Golden State Warriors, and that was a team that drafted him out of North Carolina, and they won a ring together in 2015 with Draymond, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Andre Iguodala. That was Steve Kerr's first one against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we know what happened the next year. They lose. Draymond, big part of the reason why, gets kicked out of the game, doesn't get to play in Game 5. The Cavs win Game 5, Game 6, Game 7, and end up winning the championship. So somehow the Warriors got in their minds, we will never be able to beat the Cavs again. Even though we beat them in 2015, a lot of people will say that's because Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving didn't play. So I get that. But a healthy Cavs, Draymond, the front office, they thought, we can't beat these guys. We have to get better. So we know what happened. They get Kevin Durant. They get better. They win 2 in a row, back to back. And in order to get Kevin Durant, they had to lose some pieces. Harrison Barnes was one of them. We see Harrison Barnes on the Sacramento Kings now. So we've talked about it. Harrison Barnes, he has a right to be petty. He has a right to be butthurt, angry. That's tough. You know, you trade me away and then you win without me. That's hard to take. You're a competitor. That's tough. So people forget the person who was the ringleader of getting Kevin Durant to the Warriors was Draymond. I think Clay and Steph, they were going to let the front office deal with it because they thought, hey, we just missed some opportunities. Draymond, really, it's your fault that we lost. If you were to play, we would have went back-to-back 2015, 2016. It didn't happen that way. But Draymond was like, no, we can make some things happen. I'm good friends with KD. I know him. Let me contact him and see what's up because they just got done playing in the
Olympics or international.
Together. Yeah, they're in the Olympics together, which Harrison Barnes, ironically, was there too. Like he has that 2016 gold medal that a lot of those guys have.
Okay.
So got rid of Harrison Barnes, bring in Kevin Durant. Harrison Barnes gets married, Chad.
Okay.
He invites.
Just recently.
I don't know if it was recently, but during, I guess, from then to now.
Yeah, somewhere during the time. Okay.
He was on the podcast with Richard Jefferson, or Richard Jefferson was on his podcast, and he told RJ, yeah, the dude invited Steph, Clay, everybody to his wedding except me.
Oh, no. Harrison Barnes didn't invite Draymond to the wedding?
Yeah.
Man.
I'm with it. Sorry, bro.
It would bring with it a certain vibe, but I mean, as long as they were getting along, I mean, I guess so that would tell us Harrison thinks that Draymond, because it's not direct. If Draymond's idea led to you getting moved, that's one thing. But does he think Draymond wanted him off the team? Is that what it is? That the message?
It's more of wanting Kevin Durant more than you.
Okay, yeah.
Instead of saying, you know what? Let's try again next year. Instead of taking the blame, because Draymond could have easily said, you know, it's just straight up my fault.
That's on
Let's
me.
try it again next year. Like, it's on me. I shouldn't have gotten kicked out of the game. I shouldn't have got as many texts to put us in this situation to get kicked out and not be available for game 5. But instead he said, nah, man, let's not even, if we get to that point, let's not even risk it. Let's just put KD on our team and we're just going to roll through everybody. And we got to get rid of somebody, and Harrison Barnes is that somebody. So, and Richard Jefferson, who was on the Cavs team that won it, he got an invite. Ain't that a B? He got an invite. I don't know if he went, but
I like that
he
tweet.
was on the opposing team that just beat us. And he gets an invite in front of Draymond. So, yeah, it's petty, but also for somebody who is married, that is a very special day. You do not want any distractions. You don't want anybody there messing up the vibe. You don't want anybody there that could, you know, just you have any bad blood with. It's supposed to be a happy, beautiful day.
Yeah.
You want your wife to be locked in and to have her perfect wedding. So if anything's going to alter that, and if Draymond's that person, you ain't invited, dog. I don't care if we want or not.
Maybe the wife was like, look, this needs to be my day. I feel like he'll take some of my day. It's Draymond Green. I feel like he'll be noticeable at my wedding. So,
for sure.
Yeah, tell Steph he can bring that lovely wife of his. He can bring his daughter, who's an incredible character. Tell her to, yes, she'll look great in a dress.
Make her the flower girl.
She can be the flower girl. Everything's fine. Nope. Clay, tell him to bring the family. Draymond, maybe we stay away.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, he is a distraction, so I get it.
That's funny.
And think about Draymond open bar.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Yo,
that'd be crazy.
That'd be a little wild.
It is one of those things, though. I don't have many things that I would consider like guy rules or man's rules or anything like that. But as a guy, to me, if you really do have any issues about being invited or not being invited to a wedding, if it's not family, it's not that big a deal.
I mean,
it really is not. That just doesn't register with me. Like,
I mean, if I'm looking on Draymond's point of view, I could be a little salty about that because it's just business. Harrison Barnes should know, be better. If you didn't want to get traded, maybe you should have knocked some shots down in that game 7 so we could have won. Because Harrison Barnes missed a ton of shots.
Well,
a ton of shots in that game.
That's true. And I'll say, let's go pre-petty. Before the pettiness even gets started, I could argue to Barnes, you just got to throw him the invite. He's probably not coming. He probably doesn't care enough about you to come. You need to invite him, though, because otherwise it'll look obvious and he'll never forget. So, but maybe Harrison Barnes wanted this. Maybe he wants exactly this because he knows it'll stay in Draymond's head. And for the rest of his life, Draymond will think, man, he didn't invite me to his wedding. And if anybody ever asked Harrison, he'd go, yeah, he's right. Yeah. I didn't want him at my wedding.
Yeah, because why would you risk Draymond coming to compliment the wife? Oh, let me see the ring. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at mine for 2018. How's that look? That don't look too good, does it? That don't seem too good.
That's fair.
You know, he could be blinging with that ring on.
See, that is the biggest worry. And the bride probably is the one that made that choice too. She thought, oh no, he'll bring all his rings. No.
Got to hear about his wife. Draymond's going to bring his wife, obviously. You got to bring her, got to hear about her and them having a good time, benefiting off them being champions and stuff. You don't want to hear that. Yeah. It was the right move, Harrison. I'm with you.
That is complex right there. All right, there you go. Great NBA drama story. Harrison Barnes does not invite Draymond to the wedding because of...
But invite Steph and Clay.
Steph Clay. Now, he said Steph Clay, everybody to his wedding. I would love to know what that means. Everybody. Did he invite Steve Kerr, Mike Brown, coaching staff, trainers, right? The team doctors got invited. The GM got invited.
Yeah, Andrew Bogut. Guys that were barely a part of that dynasty.
The question would be, did he invite LeBron? At least he didn't invite LeBron.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have gone that step. Richard's one thing, but he didn't invite LeBron or Kyrie Irving. That was the Kyrie Irving game, right? The Kyrie Irving series?
Yes.
Yeah.
It would have been mucked up if Harrison Barnes would have invited KD.
Ooh, that
because they won together again. They were on that Olympic team, 2016, Durant and Harrison Barnes, so they have a relationship.
Now, that would have been a great side move. That would have been the curveball. Don't invite Draymond, but invite Kevin Durant. That would have been good. Harrison Barnes, that's fantastic. All right, there you go. Where are we at in society? Zay brings it to you every day about 1:45. Up next, it's Chip Brown of Horns247.com. He's driving from Houston, where Sark was speaking today. He'll let you know what the Longhorn coach had to say. Plus, we'll talk Bijan and the draft and some other stuff with Chip right up next on the Horn. All right, this is Chad. Let's talk Apple leasing. Got one of those weather situations these last few days, dry weather, and then it's wet, and then it's windy, and then rain. You never know where things are coming. You want to make sure you have a good, dependable car, obviously. And if you don't right now, Apple leasing is a great way. Or if you're ready to upgrade, Apple leasing is a great way to do that. It's the easiest and safest way to get a new car. Whatever car you're looking at, you're not bound by one particular dealer, one particular brand. You could have all kinds of different brand options. Call them up. Tell them what you're thinking of. They will do the searching for you. They'll do all the legwork for you, get you those options, and then you're signing everything electronically. The process just could not have been easier. I loved the way I was treated with Apple leasing. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It will not be the last car I lease from Apple leasing. I can see why they've been so successful since 1985. Let them show you how they do it. 346-9977. That's the number. Start it with a phone call just like I did. 346-9977, or you can go online to appleleasing.com.
Chad and Zay.
Hour number 3 on a Wednesday. It's Chad and Zay. I'm Chad Hastings. He is Isaiah Collier. Picks out a beat to start every third hour. What do we got today, Zay?
NWA or Eazy-E, Boys in the Hood.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So NWA era, obviously.
Yeah. I can
Classic Dre beat.
The boys in the oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can't sing much of that album on the air.
No, you really can't sing
get,
anything.
I will get fired.
Yeah.
A little Eazy-E NWA beat to get us started. Real quick, before we get into the conversation with Chip Brown, a Longhorn update. Softball scheduled to go against UTSA today. They have canceled that game because of weather moving in. So if you're headed out to the softball game, it has been canceled for today. All right, let's go to the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. It's our weekly visit with Chip Brown of horns247.com. Check out the flagship podcast, the Morning Brew article, and if you're on Twitter, at Chip Brown 247. Chip, how are you, sir?
What's going on?
Man, we're always excited to talk to you, but then you reminded me that the barnstorming begins this time of year where Coach Sark and the crew head out and start talking to fan bases and boosters and interested parties and get the energy built up for the season. Today was the Houston event, and you've been nice enough to give us a little time after that. I appreciate it. I'm glad it all worked out. How was everything today with Sark?
Oh man, he was barnstorming. He feels good about this football team. He feels good about the player and coaching staff retention. And he knows that the expectations are going to be high, and that he's got to make sure that his team remains the hunter and not the hunted. Kind of the remember that pregame sideline interview Kirby Smart gave right before his team demolished TCU?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's about
We're the hunter.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, too. That's what they need to be.
Yeah, you talk about being a hunter and not the hunted. And, a lot of national media is giving this team so many high expectations, which this is the University of Texas. That's why you come here. You should have expectations every year. But we know what this last decade and some change have been, Chip. But when you got guys like Jordan Whittington, Jalen Ford, you got some real guys that could take over leadership duties when guys who are going to get drafted tomorrow, they were serious leaders in their own right. But you have to feel confident about this Texas team or the leadership moving forward with all the expectation.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. I think it's a Big 12 title game or bust type of year. The great coaches typically are either playing for a conference title or winning one in their first 3 years at a school. You go back and look at the coaches who've won, gone on to win national championships. That's typically the case. And I think Steve Sarkisian knows it. I mean, he knows that, everybody's going to be looking at Texas, and even he's saying this is this team is finally a team that's built in my image. We want big linemen. We want speed at the skill position, and a quarterback who can lead a team. And he certainly feels good about his quarterback room with Quinn Ewers, Malik Murphy, and Arch Manning.
Chip, take the fans into these events a little bit. Once Sark, I'm assuming this is something where maybe Sark's got a little bit he says, and then I'm assuming there's some kind of question and answer that happens. Is that Q&A with you guys in the media? Is it folks that have shown up for this event? Is it a little bit of both? And what was the kind of, if there is a Q&A, what did the folks want to know about? Whoever was asking questions, did it go to quarterbacks first, or where did the discussion go?
That's so funny because Steve Sarkisian, so there was both.
Okay.
He met with the media before the luncheon, and then for the luncheon, it's the Q&A from the crowd, and he Jim Mackingvale, Mattress Mac, who's always betting that if the Astros win the World Series, the furniture you buy will be free and all that stuff, and Sark basically said, Mac, how much you want to bet the first question's about the quarterback? and someone asked about the defense just to be funny. But I thought the best question and response was someone asked, so did Arch Manning, pick Texas because of NIL money? And Sark said, I'm glad you asked that. Absolutely not at all. And he said, I wish I could show you a text message from Cooper Manning that said, let this be an example to the other kids you're recruiting that Arch Manning picked Texas because he loves Texas, not because of NIL. And he said that Arch Manning has taken 0 NIL dollars to this point, and that his grandfather, Archie Manning, has said that he shouldn't be able to take NIL money until he's on the field as a player. So I thought that was interesting.
Now, that's an old school way to look at it.
Very old head.
I like
that's very old head,
that
Grandpa.
Good stuff.
Sure.
Way to go, Gramps.
Hey, Chip, tomorrow night is a huge recruiting night for the University of Texas with Bijan Robinson being in Kansas City for the NFL draft. I know Sark is going up there to support his running back like he should. And I remember when Lake Travis owned Offensive Rookie of the Year, Garrett Wilson, big reason why he didn't want to come to Texas because he did not see the development there and his goals of trying to get to the NFL. And you want to start coming the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Ohio State, where you see people shaking Roger Goodell's hand from that school you want to go to. How big is it for the recruiting standpoint, seeing Bijan Robinson walk down that stage and shake Roger Goodell's hand tomorrow?
No doubt. I mean, that's what that's been something that's been holding Texas back. We know that it's been forever since Texas had an offensive player taken in the first round of the NFL draft. I think it's Vince Young, actually. So,
yep.
It's, that stuff has got to end. That and the offensive lineman drought in the first round, which probably will be remedied by Kelvin Banks in a couple more years. But it is big, recruiting is so much about what has just happened, what is shiny and new. Don't tell me about history. I want to see results right here, right now. And Bijan Robinson, in addition to being an unbelievable talent, is a fun guy. He's a great guy. He's engaging. And Steve Sarkisian talked about that today. He said, I don't know what some of these NFL teams are thinking. I think there's a ton of value in getting Bijan Robinson in the first round because you get him for 5 years under a rookie contract when backs typically are their most productive. And that is a great point. But he said, you're getting a guy who's not only going to help your team, he's going to be an amazing presence in your locker room and in your community. And so, yeah, there's no doubt that Bijan Robinson is going to be a big face of Texas football recruiting tomorrow night.
Chip, everybody that I've heard discuss it the last couple of weeks has said that there's pretty much no way Bijan's fallen all the way to the Cowboys at 26. Would you agree with that? Do you like the discussion of him in that top 10, Atlanta, or maybe number 10 at Philly? Do you think he goes pretty early?
Man, I can see the Philadelphia Eagles, with 2 picks in the first round. I can see them, making a move on Bijan right there. But it's it's going to be interesting because I think teams can overthink stuff, and this one is a no-brainer. I mean, there's, most accounts say there's 16 true first-round picks in the draft, and Bijan Robinson is in the top half of that. So, throw your analytics out the window about running backs across the board and look at Bijan Robinson. If you think you're a player away, if you think you're a running back away to making your offense just a Super Bowl contending offense, then you absolutely, take Bijan Robinson at 10. So that would not shock me to see him go in the top 10.
Yep.
Chip, what are your thoughts on the upcoming years with the new schedule, having Michigan and Ohio State, not very SEC-like, with a tough schedule like that? What do you think of those moves, playing those Big Ten teams once the Horns go to the SEC?
You know what? I think with the expanded playoff, you're okay. You play a top team. Typically, if you're playing another team that's up there, say a top 10 team, maybe even a top 15 team, and you go on the road and you lose, when we get to a 12-team playoff, you're gonna have teams with 2, maybe even 3 losses, and I get it. The SEC is a gauntlet, but you're going to have teams with multiple losses getting into that playoff. So I think it's more forgiving than if we were staying in a 4-team playoff situation. And if you win that game, man, your seeding, your ability to get maybe an easier draw in that 12-team playoff is helped immensely. I think back to Texas in 2005, going up to Ohio State.
Uh-oh.
An Ohio State fan cut the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, every time. I
know where he was going, though.
Oh, yeah. No, that was huge.
That win, because we know Ohio State, they were the third-best team.
Well, there he is. There he is. Sorry, Chip, you cut out a little bit during the answer. I thought an Ohio State fan had cut your phone, but you said when they went up to Columbus. Go ahead.
Yeah, when they went up to Columbus, they proved to themselves they could get it done. It filled their confidence tank, in addition to just cementing them as the number 2 team in the country that year behind USC. So I think that I don't think he's looking to lighten the schedule as Texas moves into the SEC, primarily because that expanded playoff will allow for teams to get in with multiple losses.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. All right, that's Chip Brown, horns247.com. Check out that flagship podcast, the Morning Brew article. Obviously, there'll be a lot going on and things to talk about after the Houston Barnstorming event at Chip Brown 247. Follow it all there. Chip, safe travels, brother. Enjoy the draft getting started tomorrow, and we'll talk next week.
All right, sounds good, fellas.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Chip.
Good stuff there. And I think it's a terrific way to look at that. As we were talking about, if you missed it today, Texas fans, it's official now that it's at Michigan in 24, host Michigan in 27, and you mentioned, Zay, that Ohio State's going to end up. Texas and Michigan have played once, ever.
Rose Bowl.
Ever. That's it. Like, you don't even have to nobody has to even kind of think about it. So Texas being that brand name, putting other brand names on the schedule, I love it. I love it. And Chip brings up the great point. In a 12-team expanded playoff, how many years will there be at least 3 SEC teams?
A lot.
Every year, maybe?
A ton.
I'm going to guess it's 4. I'm going to guess you're going to get 4 SEC teams a year anyway. So play a badass. Don't be scared. I really hope the conference bends itself towards nine conference games. Because if you do that, you can go 9 games, 1 more game that's in your conference, and then you only have the choice of going 2 pieces of garbage if you really want to. That way it's not 3. So you're and then hopefully other teams will do what Texas is doing. Look at the expanded schedule and go, oh yeah, we could schedule whoever.
Right.
And then that Texas fan base, man, say for you and all the Longhorn fans listening right now, all the griping that I've heard over the years about some of these Big 12 locations, like, come on, man, I don't want to go back to Manhattan and Waco and Ames and whatever.
Or those teams coming here. I'm so tired of that.
So you already know what you're probably adding in with the SEC, and you're not afraid to say, oh, yeah, let's go to the Big House.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Shoe.
Yeah, going from a 4-team playoff to a 12-team playoff makes the most difference in the world, and it's going to alter the Big Ten too. Remember, UCLA and USC, they'll be there very soon.
Yeah,
so
that's a great point. And I was going to say, and do not be afraid. Do not lose Lincoln Riley's number no matter what you do.
No.
Don't ever be afraid to call them up.
Absolutely.
And UCLA too, just because,
Yeah, and the
you
way
you get it up going to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, and the way Ohio State and Michigan, Michigan just came down here and plucked the one of the linemen right in our backyard. Now we know that he has family ties.
Sure.
That's a little different. But still, we know Ohio State. We just talked about Garrett Wilson with Chip. They're willing to come down and pluck those guys. You go up there, beat their ass, and show them that, no, you stay down here. We're better than those schools.
You know what? I didn't even thought of that angle, but that's true. That timing is going to work out where if Blake Frazier, who you're referencing there, Blake Frazier at Vandergrift, dad went to Michigan, he's going to be at Michigan when Michigan comes here.
Blake, that's going to be fun.
Dude, that family. You talk about a big day for that family, obviously a huge day for Texas and everything too. That's really cool stuff. Hopefully we will find out. There was talk about us finding out by the end of April how the SEC was going to roll out starting next year. I still haven't heard it yet. Mr. Sankey, whenever you're ready. If the SEC could please stop talking about rushing the field and rushing the court and get on to this stuff, I'd really appreciate that.
They be chilling.
Are we really going to be flipping out about all that?
SEC be chilling. Remember how long they took? They could have just went and said, you know what, we'll help pay and get Oklahoma and Texas over here. They didn't do that.
Did you hear this crap about they're considering taking games from people as a punishment?
What does that mean?
Taking home games away from teams if you have too much field or court rushing. That's what they're focused on.
That's odd.
And they're doing it to themselves.
Yeah.
It's not an NCAA thing. Nobody's telling you to do that. You're the SEC. You cast the shadows. Nobody else casts shadows on you. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's a little odd.
Do what you do. Hey, this just in. Arkansas fans are kind of crazy. Tennessee fans are kind of crazy. They may rush the field. My Aggie folk, we didn't rush the field for years. We've done it twice now.
Right.
It's going to happen. Stop it with the fines and the craziness.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, really, what are we doing?
I mean, what Alabama and Georgia have become in the SEC, it's weird because it's the SEC. Nobody should be charging the field, except if it maybe South Carolina, Vanderbilt, those real lower-ish schools. But other than that, like LSU shouldn't be charging the field. Tennessee, y'all shouldn't be charging the field on nobody. And that's what I think SEC people are trying to say. Like, no one should be charging the field on anyone. Look at yourself as equals to Georgia and Alabama. But with what Saban and Kirby Smart have done over the years, we get it mixed up that these guys are so superior. It's just we gotta charge the field and stuff like that. I don't get, like, Texas. We never ever should charge the field on anyone.
Texas is a team that has always stood on that idea, and I don't know that they ever would. I still ask that question about had they pulled off the game against Bama, what might have happened. I don't know, because sometimes those moments take you over. But I would still go back to it's the branding of the conference, SEC. It just means more. They're going to rush the field because they're crazy. That's what you're joining. You're joining a conference that's so crazy, good and bad, that it does all just mean more, including when you're Kentucky and you knock off Tennessee and Lexington, the people in blue may want to run on the field. I say, so what? That's part of it. That's the pageantry part. That's why college football gets love over pro football, because of the pageant part of it. Let it happen.
Yeah, I see both sides.
What are we doing?
I see both sides.
They're acting like 9 people are getting trampled to death every time this happens. It's not the case.
I mean, well, you got to think about the moments that we've seen where players interact with the fans in a negative way.
Right.
Like those cheap shots where fans run into the back of players or vice versa, where players have taken out random fans running the field and stuff. We need to get that out of it.
Absolutely.
Those things, that's a little toxic.
And that's survival of the smartest. You figure out what you shouldn't do. The more you rush the field, the more you learn how to act when you rush the field. Stay away from the players in the uniforms and helmets. If y'all can't figure that out, a rule's not going to help. An SEC rule is not going to make y'all understand that.
Yeah.
We'll see. Some good talk there from Chip on the future for Texas, but also the future for Bijan Robinson. Chip, like a lot of people, circling that number 10 Philadelphia Eagles. My God, I hope Bijan's not an Eagle by tomorrow night. I got to prep for that over the next 24 hours. Up next, let's talk about why today matters. Speaking of the draft, it's April 26th, and C.J. Stroud was asked about the cognitive test, and his answer is telling. This is The Horn. All right, this is Chad. Let's talk Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy sports. NBA playoff pick'em games and MLB pick'em games are there for you right now. How about tonight in the NBA? You kidding me? Knicks in Cleveland, Miami, Boston, Lakers in Memphis, Golden State and Sacramento. Pick any game, pick all those games, and get a pick'em game rolling. You go to that pick'em tab. You pick whether your player is going to have a higher or lower stat total in the game for your chance to win big. You're picking between 2 and 5 players to build a pick'em entry. The only rule is you can't pick everybody from the same team. That's it. Get all your picks right, and you can win up to 20 times your money on a single game. I'm going to have to get something going on at least one of those games tonight. It's so much fun to do. You can make those rivals picks if you want, pitting 2 players against each other. And I've told you, you can mix it up. Do a couple basketball players and a couple of the MLB guys if you like. Mix in some NHL because they're rolling in the playoffs right now too. Sign up today with the promo code HORN. Get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with my promo code HORN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Must be 18 or over and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org. NBA Pick'em and MLB Pick'em right now at Underdog Fantasy.
Chad and Zay.
All right, rolling through a Wednesday. We are one day away from the NFL draft. A lot of stuff going on around here. This is definitely a song I'm familiar with. Is the phrase Black Sheep either the band or the song?
The band.
The band is Black Sheep.
Yep.
Okay. It's a great song. What's it called?
The choice is yours.
Oh, man. So tell me about Black Sheep. What do I need to know?
I don't know much about these guys. I know this was a hit. I know they were a part of the Native Tongues, which we talked about, De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest,
Okay.
Queen Latifah and them. So he was a part of that crew.
So they're New York as well? Is all that New York?
Yeah.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Because Queen Latifah's from New York.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Black Sheep. Yeah, every time I hear this song, it always puts me in a good mood.
Yeah, it's a good song. I don't know how many hits they had, but I want to say this album was a big deal. The Wolf in Sheep's Clothing.
Very catchy. Very catchy tune. Black Sheep, Kool and the Gang, Bananarama, Sal Soul Orchestra, and Aerosmith have all been a part of the show. Plus, the Eazy-E NWA beat to start the hour was fantastic. Because speaking of things that put me in a good mood, Eazy-E always puts me in a good mood. I always smile when I hear Eazy-E.
Right.
Every single time, man. Nobody else sounds exactly like that. You got that Dre beat as the foundation and Eazy-E, and it's just not a whole lot like that. All
Dude
right.
couldn't even rap. Like,
I mean, that's
Dre and them were like you. They're like, yo, your voice, we got to put it on the mic.
That's
I can't rap. He's like, we got that covered. Cube, we got it covered.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. You're good.
I got you.
You're good.
I got you. It's one thing to have a couple people saying I got you. When those people are Dr. Dre and Ice Cube, they got you.
Well, if you're Eazy-E, you need to understand what these guys are bringing to the table. Because Eazy could have said, you know what, Cube, you need to get a lot of this love. You need to get a lot of this paper. And it wasn't that way. He was getting most of the money, yet Cube was writing the lyrics, and that was the disconnect.
Yeah.
That's why Cube ended up leaving and having so much,
Right.
have so many issues with the guys. And then it was a trickle-down effect. Dre was like, oh, yeah, Cube was right. You aren't treating us well over here. Well, I'm going to see what's going on the other side. And yeah, we know what happened after that.
That's how things can split.
That's how things can split.
Pretty quick. All right. Speaking of splits, Aaron Rodgers split, of course, with Green Bay. He's a Jet now. They did the press conference today. It's weird. Just seeing the logo behind him was weird. Different shade of green. I know it's still green, but it's weird. No gold to be found. No G anywhere on a logo.
This is the best he's looked in a while. Like, he doesn't have the crazy Hitler hair or the shag. Like, he was clean cut. Beard looked on point. Aaron Rodgers looks focused.
It is interesting how, when guys become Yankees, they always make the joke about the haircut they have to get. I don't think the Jets obviously have that reputation, but still, it does feel like, I'm going to New York, different media, different vibe. I'm going to get a good start, right? Good clean start here. So Aaron Rodgers did that presser.
Now, I always get it confused. Is it the Jets and the Mets? They're kind of more the blue-collar, like the fans. You're either fans of Jets and the Mets, blue-collar version of them, and then you're fans of like Yankees or Giants?
Good question. Not sure. I'm not sure the combo. Sal in New York City.
Yeah, let us know.
If you're listening, let us know what those combos are. That would be my guess, but that's my simple mind and the rhyming, Jets, Mets. I don't know if that's the way it works.
Yeah.
But, that would be my gut because the other two feel more traditional. A little bit more traditional and more of a long run. So in addition to that, speaking of NFL and quarterbacks, let's get into this C.J. Stroud thing. Why today matters. We got some interesting sound for you. Got a couple birthdays to mention here in a second. But, Zay, let's get this C.J. Stroud sound out there. We were talking about this the cognition test, the S2 cognition test. So whatever CJ's doing right now, working out for the draft, getting prepared, I guess there was a little media availability, and he was asked straight up about the cognition test, correct?
Yep, and it's very sketchy what he says.
So here's his answer to the cognition test about, I guess, is it true that the cognition test, or do you want to comment on the cognition test? Here's C.J. Stroud.
I'm not a test taker, so I play football for me. But at the end of the day, man, I don't got nothing to prove to nobody, so I'm not gonna sit here and explain how I process football. The people who are making the picks know what I can do, so that's all that matters to me. There's a whole bunch of people who know how to coach better, know how to play quarterback better, know how to do everything on social media, but a man in the arena, that's what's tough, is stepping in the arena 10 toes. So, and I'm gonna stand on that, and I know what I can do. I know I can process well. I know if I'm not the smartest quarterback in this draft, I know I'm one of the smartest quarterbacks in the NFL when I step in there tomorrow. So I have that confidence in myself, and I don't think you can play at Ohio State and not be smart. So I don't got nothing to prove to nobody, man. At the end of the day, if you don't trust and believe in me, all I can tell you is watch this.
What's your interaction?
Yo, Ohio State ain't Northwestern, dog.
Real careful what Michigan fans are going to do with that comment. I'm just saying. A lot of people are going to comment on USC fans, and others will comment on that one. Oh, my God. All right, so let me see if I'm understanding this. First off, he tried to backtrack on the I don't have to explain myself to anyone. Well, you kind of do. What do you mean? Yeah, you do.
That's a lot of the point of the draft and increasing your stock.
You got to prove yourself.
You got to prove that you're worthy of being picked.
Yeah, so he's saying, I guess he's saying that the teams will know everything they need to know. It's a weird, I mean, obviously that's not a denial of what came out. He didn't say, let me be real clear, my test was way above whatever was reported. So he didn't deny that number. Didn't try to clarify that at all. And when your response is, I'm a football player, I play football, going to the man in the arena thing, stepping in with 10 toes
baby.
And all that.
10 toes. I'm going to stand by that.
You know who would have been real impressed with that answer? Cam Newton.
Oh,
that
man.
sounded like a Cam Newton answer, didn't it? It sounded fancy, and there was all kinds of words and things.
Yo, he got me a little hyped too when he started talking 10 toes, and y'all gotta see me on the field.
Yeah.
For real.
And to say, I believe I'm one of the smartest quarterbacks in the NFL when I step out on that field. Okay, all right. And you got to be smart to play at Ohio State and all that. And by the way, his accuracy is not in question here. But we had Joe DeLeon on earlier. He made a great point. The issue that they're seeing with him is that first read is badass. First read, bam. How much of the NFL is the first read? There's a lot of it that's the second and the third and the fourth. And then there's some of it that's the Patrick Mahomes version of all of it broke down. Now what do you do? In college, there's a different version of that than in the pros. So C.J. Stroud is, he's leaning heavily on something that a lot of guys have leaned heavily on over the years. But it doesn't always get you all the way through it. There is still obviously a lot of prep, a lot of classwork, a lot of stuff that has to be done to be successful in the NFL. As long as he does all that work and he's willing to bust his ass and do the work, he'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think he's seriously getting penalized for the talent that he had around him. Like all those wide receivers, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, you see Jackson Smith and Jigma, he'll probably go first round. You hear about Marvin Harrison Jr. might be going top 5 in 2024. Like those guys can make up for a lot of mistakes. And like what Joe was saying too, you got your first read. Okay, that's cool. The first read was open a lot.
Right. Yeah.
You didn't even have to worry about the second and third read due to Chris Olave or Marvin Harrison Jr. always being open.
Yeah, and they're being covered by whatever the Indiana defense is that year.
Yeah, Northwestern defense. Like it's still,
all those guys don't get to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
You get up there and it's best of the best, and it does change. So we'll see. Now the reports are, everything you read is Texans will not go quarterback. So now the question is, where will C.J. Stroud end up? And again, back to Joe DeLeon of the Believe Network, he says right now he's hearing it could be 4th quarterback off the board for Stroud, that it could have reorganized to Young will go first. Levis might have, through a combination of maybe the testing, maybe other stuff, that teams have just fallen for Levis and that arm, and they've fallen for Richardson and that arm, and then Stroud may slip down to 4. Among the quarterbacks.
Yeah, because Levis kind of has the opposite problem for C.J. Stroud. Who'd he have on Kentucky? Name me one wide receiver that they have that he was throwing to. Right. He was throwing guys open, making guys look good. So that's a huge difference in the SEC, by the way. So that's a different look on the whole
Richardson's
thing.
in the SEC.
Same thing.
Right. And they're both having to, you've got film with both of them facing Georgia. Guaranteed.
For sure.
Because they're both in that division. So you have that, whereas with Stroud, you have a little bit of a different.
He faced Georgia. That was his best game.
Now, that's true, right? You got him against Georgia, which is badass, but you also have him against Michigan and some other things. So, and that's what Stroud should definitely push people towards. Go show him that film. He was incredible. He almost, I wouldn't say single-handedly beat him, but I mean, he put something out there that damn near got that job done.
Yeah.
So I hope it works out. I hope it works out for him. He's just got to know where that answer is going to lead people. He's just going to have to. I mean, in a way, he sort of ate it. He didn't eat the 18 rumor, but he did eat the idea of, look, man, this isn't going to be about me scoring high on a test. This is going to be about football, and I think I'm a good football player.
Yeah, I'm denying that regardless. It might, it's not 18, I'm saying, yeah, those scores weren't accurate, but my play on the field is what's going to show. Whoever takes me, they will see that. I'm not worried about what's going on. People talking, they could talk. It is what it is.
See, I would have said what Mike Hard said on the radio yesterday in sort of referencing it. I would have literally said, if I'm Stroud, hey, y'all know when you went to take that test back in the day and you didn't care about it at all and you went A, B, A, B, B,
no,
B, C, C,
you
A.
can't say that.
I was exhausted. I just had landed like 5 minutes before, and I was just trying to get it over with, man. So that's my bad,
that.
but that's what I did. That's
the most I don't give a damn answer you could throw out there.
That's what he should have said. And he should have said, and by the way, the team that administered the cognitive test, I didn't even want to play for that team, so that's why I did it. But that you can't do that because I don't think each team does it.
Yeah.
It's the NFL that it's the test. But yeah, that would have been. I would not be good as his agent. I would not be the perfect guy for that. C.J. Stroud, we'll see where he ends up tomorrow night. He will be drafted, but is he going to be the fourth quarterback off the board? And then if you really want to go crazy rumor, will Levis jump all the way up to number 1 like the Reddit rumor says he will? That's how you know it is the silly season about to come to an end. Draft is tomorrow night, and we will continue to get you all that info on the Pluckers deal. Remember, go to hornfm.com, find out where the Horn folks are going to be. We'll be out at different Pluckers locations tomorrow, including Ball Don't Lie. Rod and Harge are going to be at the Link location 3 to 6, and then Harge is going to hang out at the Link if that is your location. Coming up, Stems and Seeds, a crazy running back story for the Big 12 this year. A guy that was going to be brand new in the Big 12 for his team, and now he's headed somewhere else. We'll get you that. Plus, we'll get you set up for the NBA tonight. This is The Horn.
Chad and Zay.
What the dealio?
All right. Just about to wrap up on a Wednesday. I was trying to listen for clues there.
They were there.
Sound like somebody threw in Flipmo.
Yep, that's a clue.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
That's not the artist, though.
No.
Okay. Is this one person or a band?
One person.
One person. I do not have a guess on this one.
That's
Who
tough.
is it?
Busta Rhymes.
Okay. See, he's not a guy that he's one of those guys I feel like I should know. Haven't heard enough stuff, though, to be able to recognize him.
That might be next week.
Okay.
That might be next week.
And the reason is, with Busta, for some reason, when I hear his name, I think that there's some rough voice involved. And I don't think that's true. So I'm not familiar enough with what he actually sounds like. Like DMX, the rep is there's a roughness in the voice.
Yeah.
Right? There's a little scratch there. But that's not the case for Busta, is it?
A little bit, but, I mean, just listen to him. His flow is very different.
Yeah,
It's fast,
really good.
but very lyrical. And he was crazy. Yeah.
Where is he on the list for you?
A lot of respect.
Yeah.
I mean, he wouldn't be top 50 for me, but
Okay.
a lot of respect for Busta Rhymes.
Is he crazier than ODB?
No, but they were close.
Really?
Yeah, they were tight.
They were friends, or you mean they're close and crazy?
Both.
Oh, both.
They
Okay.
were friends. They were tight. They were on songs together. They used to hang out all the time.
Please,
yeah.
please tell me they did a full album and somebody has that story.
Nah, they got songs together,
Okay,
though.
all right, very good. Busta Rhymes, Black Sheep, Kool and the Gang, Bananarama, South Soul Orchestra, and Aerosmith all on the show today, plus the Eazy-E NWA beat. We will skip the album swap this week because we're just going to keep talking draft tomorrow. Next week, we'll get into it. Sounds like I might be listening to a Busta Rhymes record. I got to find something for Zay to listen to next week. Got a lot of stuff going on today. Let's get you this college football story, and we'll talk a little NBA before we get out of here. Here we go.
No stress, no C's, no stems, no sticks.
Brought to you by AV Consultations, 255-8678, or go to avconsultations.com. This is an interesting story and apparently was a surprise to Dana Holgorsen, too. Alton McCaskill IV. If you know your Houston football, you know that name. He was a badass running back for Houston, and they thought he was going to be their guy headed into the Big 12. He was the Rookie of the Year in the ACC in 2021. 16 rushing touchdowns, more than any other first-year guy in college football that year. Hurt last year, coming off of, I think it was an ACL, and they were expecting him to be the guy. He's transferring. Dana Holgorsen says, I was a little shocked because the kid had a good spring, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's over. 6'1", 210 out of Conroe, Zay. So we'll see if he ends up at another Big 12 school. Does he end up, what's the next opportunity for him? But Alton McCaskill will not be at Houston.
Yeah, very interesting, especially knowing that he would be the main attraction there for U of H next year. But being that dominant in the AAC is a lot different than coming to the Big 12 and trying to, mirror that same production. So maybe the NIL had a little bit to do with this. I don't know, but best luck to him.
Wonder what it's like to be a running back for Dana Holgorsen. Because his rep to me is we're going to chunk it all around and probably ignore running backs. I wonder if that – but the kid had 961 yards a couple years ago.
That's what I'm saying. He can't argue I wasn't used.
16 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, he can't say I was't getting touches at my last place.
So is it the opposite, though? Is he saying, oh, man, Coach Holgorsen wore me out. I can't do it. Keep an eye on that. We'll see where McCaskill ends up. Aaron Rodgers has the Jets presser today. And tonight, it's 4 NBA games. Here we go, Zay. Do the Knicks close it in Cleveland?
Nope.
You like Cleveland to win?
Cavs.
All right. Miami in Boston trying to finish the series.
Miami and Milwaukee.
I'm sorry, Miami and Milwaukee. My bad. Miami and Milwaukee. Are the Bucks done tonight?
No. Bucks win. Go back to Miami.
Going back. How about Lakers, Memphis? Does LeBron finish it?
Nope. I'm taking all lower teams.
Are you?
Winning tonight. Every single one.
Does that include, if you're taking the lower seed, you're taking Golden State? Are you taking
okay.
or 4 home teams? You taking
the teams that are down in the series, I'm taking them to